You wanna dance? You wanna dance?
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, one and all. Welcome to the office hours. Started the proper way. Fighting my vest. This is a live stream, not a video. I have to say that because this will eventually become a, effectively a VOD, and people will watch this as a VOD. And before I can get started, no, I am not going to summarize all of the Star Citizen news you need to know. This is not a summary channel. I'm sorry. It's just not what I'm going to do. All right. With that, let's get to the pub, or to the office, I should say. Not to the pub. We're in the office. Howdy, y'all. How y'all doing? My name's Paul Berserker 1 Batman Shelley, your humble host and space bartender here at the AstroPub, your space bar at the end of the universe. We're going to talk about lore and other things, because I'm also the Astro Historian. So, I have been slacking on the Astro Historian stuff, but to be fair, life has been kicking me in the balls. So, repeatedly, over and over again, for 2 weeks. So. But I also decided that I was going to take this small little neat video I was going to do, and it is now almost 30 minutes long. Like, it is nuts. And we're going to get sidetracked a lot. Yes, we're going to get sidetracked a lot. We're going to be doing other things as well. I look really red for some reason. I am not that red, I promise. I am much more pale. Drop this down a little bit. My lighting changed a little bit because something my main front light, my whatever this is called, the thing that casts the light behind me, that casts out most of my shadows in front of me, that main light got turned off, like permanently turned off. So we'll give you a moment to get your bearings. I have more minis to show as well because I've been going through my Night Haunt stuff, but I will show those later because they do require green screening. But welcome. I'm going to start off by dispelling a rumor that I got caught up into because, and I'm going to use this as an example of why using summaries is not always a good idea. I love Noobifier. He is a great person. He's weird like me, so I like that. He has his niche. He does a fantastic job. But I will always contend that his no BS summaries are in fact BS because of a fact of just human nature and the realities of having to do summaries and those sort of quick summaries. And it's not just him. Everyone who summarizes the news does the same thing. Even I do when I have to summarize stuff because such is the nature of human communications. Now, I'm not going to sit here and be like, I have an education in this, so I understand. But no, like I literally studied for this, so it's kind of important to highlight. It's something that I had to go through in college, and if I had to go through college, now all of you have to go through the same process. But it's called bias. And it's not intentional, it's usually subliminal. You rarely ever kind of notice that you have a bias, but everyone has a bias in what they do. And when you're dealing with news, the bias that'll come out with the news is sometimes more overt when you look at, say, things like political leanings, and sometimes it's more subtle. But that's like probably the most common example, but our biases happen all the time. So when you're looking at things like summaries, you're relying on people to summarize content the way that they think you should hear. And if they make a mistake, that mistake will then be processed over into other people's understanding of that topic and will spread down the line. Like a game of telephone. It's happened before in Star Citizen. It'll happen again in Star Citizen. I know there are many things that have been spread down the line that were false or misunderstandings by people like Super Mac Brothers and myself and Board Gamer and such. But I'm going down and taking you all with me. Yes. So this is not meant as a personal attack, and anyone who takes it out of the context like this, fuck you. What this is meant to do is to highlight the problems with summaries. And if you rely on summaries for your information, you will always be susceptible to this problem. I don't know German. I have no idea. I have like 2 words I understand. That's about it. I understand more about German history than I actually know German. But Noobifier does. Noobifier does. I was going to say Guten Tag. I don't know why. But Noobifier does. He speaks a little German. And has his own kind of German channel. So when the Con 42 panel came out, and it was all done in German, questions have been asked in German to devs who speak German from Germany, it was all German. So Noobifier did a fantastic thing and tried to translate and then summarize what was being said. And one of the things stuck out to me, which was Noobifier said that one of the questions was about armor, and it was said that the armor is still years away from being done. And when I heard that, because that was probably one of the biggest PvP things I've heard for people have been asking for a long time, I kind of went, oh, fuck. How is it still years away when Squadron 42, that means that Squadron 42 can't be soon. It's just that whole, everything blown up with that comment. And I mentioned it in my Discord, and somebody who actually speaks German, who had seen the interview, said, that's not what he said. He said it's still a ways away. But I can guarantee you, if I caught that as saying that's years away, other people have already heard that and have already spread that. So that's an example. He is translating, so he's translating the language he himself says, I'm comfortable with it, I'm not that comfortable with it. And he's summarizing. So you've got two different gates that you have to go through to pick that up. There was an English Q&A section, by the way. Was there? Hey, Doc. The hour-long Q&A was in English? Okay, so I thought it was in German. Yeah, Alpha Sergeant Fred, thank you. Can we get a summary of this rant? There's nothing wrong with summaries. 100% nothing wrong with summaries. But that's if you just want to get some quick news and information. And most of the time you're going to get the right information that's being said in summarized format. That's not my issue. The issue I have is that often people will base their entire understanding of the project based off of what a handful of creators have said. And the creators are not CIG. And in fact, to a degree, I think this is partially CIG's fault, because CIG refuses to do summary information because they understand that summary information is less accurate. So it's harder to get a full scope. So they want to give us that fire hose. But that leads to the problem where you're relying on content creators who are not paying to say these things. So you have no control over what I say. And I'm going to say that again. CIG has no control over what I say. Never have, likely never will, because they're never going to hire me. But the point being, this is a serious issue, and it comes down to the thing that I think Darj and Nick and I were talking about, where a lot of the issues that come from, and again, one of the recent captain tables, a lot of the issues that CIG has is that the fire hose of information and spread out in this huge spray all over like 17 different sources to actually get that information. ISC 10 to 15 minutes is already a summary, heavily edited. That's true. But that's over a single topic. Rarely do they do the sprint reports, and the sprint reports themselves are already are like, I mean, even Jared said, like, they've done it once in the last like year. They rarely do them. Lorville, wow. In RP, my character doesn't even like the Hurston family and preferably doesn't want to deal with them. But Lorville, wow. So much perspective for the future, even more cyberpunk-esque cities. Yeah, we'll talk about that here when we watch that. They're fucked. Like, I can't overemphasize how fucked the Hurstons are. Is gold trim a smart idea for Lorville? Chemically inert, perfect for Hurston atmosphere. Gold coating would be a cheap and efficient choice. I don't know if it's actually gold. Hey, Jay Sparks. The telephone game, yeah. Hey, thank you for signing up for Factor. Those of you who don't know, we're actually sponsored by Factor, and for this entire month. If you decide to join in, I was actually going to do a roll into the Factor sponsorship. The people who do pay me are Factor. So they do have a control over what I say. But I'll pull up Factor real quick so y'all can get this. All right. I'm going to be smart this time and not show off a bunch of things I'm not supposed to. So this is all pre-selected meals. I can see the full menu here. Let me see the full menu here. So I have chosen a 4-meal deal, but you can get up to like 15. And the whole purpose of this is that all of these meals you see here are pretty much the way they're depicted. Like the way you see them is the way you get them. What Factor is it's a pre-created meal service. So you buy a box with a certain number of meals every week. It's like a subscription service that you can cancel at any time. And it comes to your door. Then you take those meals, you put them in your fridge, and all you have to do is heat them up for 2 minutes in the microwave, and they're good. And they are very good for what they are. I wouldn't say they're gourmet, but they're about the same, maybe a little cheaper than if you're going out to get fast food. And because it's literally 2 minutes in the microwave to get them done, they're fantastic for people who are just work their asses off and don't have time or energy to really make food at the end of the day. Or people who don't want to spend a lot of money on fast food, and they don't want to just don't have that whole shebang, or even all of those above, and also looking to eat better, healthier, more diverse meals. It's fantastic. I've used it myself in the past. The only reason why I don't use it right now is because it's just a little bit at my budget. By the end of this year, I probably will go back and do Factor again because of how good it is. But you get as many meals as you want. I think up to like 20 meals. And it's every week they send to you, and they have pre-selected, because you can choose, say, hey, I want to lose weight, or I want to do keto, or I'm a vegetarian or a vegan. They have all of these different options, and they're really good. They're really good. And you can add a little extras too if you want to get fancy. You want to get some filet mignon. Yeah, you see right here, we've got a vegan three bean chili. And again, it's 2 minutes in the microwave. It's a very, very, very good service that I highly recommend. And when they reached out to sponsor me, I said, yeah, sure. So use my code. And if you use my code in chat, !Factor, and I believe I'll have it down below as well in the YouTube. If you use that, you get 50% off of your first order. So that's 50% off the first box. Get a box. It's going to be cheaper than buying takeout, if you're getting a lot of takeout, and you get 50% off that first one. And then you can decide, if you don't like it, you can just cancel. It's not too hard. How much are these meals? You can't get these meals in game, Wartburg. You cannot. Steve French, how you doing, buddy? I was using Factor for a bit, but their selection in Canada is nowhere near the US. That was me as problem. Thank you, Ashton. The grimdark you talk about really shows in the new Loreville. Star Citizen has a really weird thing. Oh, 89 Dig Dug, I didn't see you gift out those subs. Thank you for gifting out those subs to Instigate, Jack McStelfin, Stormfiel, Alanon, and Cypress Star. Thank you so much for that. All of those the gift subs. Gold right now isn't even a commodity. It could be even worthless. It could be. Yeah, the Midnight Armor was in English. I watched it myself, and they actually said it was going to be in game. It was in game and working with the Gladius, but it would take a while before they could put the armor in the PU. Yeah, that's what Noobfire said, but he added at the end that it was going to take years. That may have been a slip up on a Noob's part. He may have misheard him, whatever. But isn't gold used in circuitry? It is, but is it a good conductor? I know it's a good conductor, but don't we have better conductors even now than gold? Silver. I mean, gold's good, but gold's also expensive. Gold is basically the best conductor. Okay. Hadnite might be as well. I don't know if some of them are real. They're not real, so. Hey, certified gumbo. Yeah, we start. We always we're starting a little early than we used to because I can't go to bed at 1 o'clock in the morning anymore. Silver oxidizes, as stated earlier. Gold doesn't, unless you pour a very particular acid on it. Okay. Yeah, as Darsh said, we're talking about a galaxy-spanning civilization. There's more gold in some asteroids than there is in the entire planet of Earth. Gold is not nearly as valuable as it might be. And we don't know if we might find better conductor alloys or better conductors that are cheaper to use and easier to find. I love gold. Yes. The reason why Hurston uses gold is entirely because they gaudy motherfuckers. They want to show off and flash that bling in your face. It has nothing to do with the value of gold. Gold could be totally worthless, but gold is forever linked with human society as absolutely abhorrently gaudy. Yeah, because they can, yeah. There's actually, in the lore, they talk about how it's either Colonel Hurston or one of his sons, who's like the second in command for the Hurstons, has a wall that's entirely filled with heads of endangered animals. I'm not even fucking joking. He has a wall filled with the heads of endangered animals that he flaunts all the time whenever he gets in interviews. That should show you how much of an asshole the Hurstons are. Oh, there's the thing that's important to understand is that the reason why the Hurstons are allowed to be who they are is because they're one of only very few numbers of companies that can make their own antimatter and know how to turn it into a bomb. The Hurstons produce most of the antimatter bombs and warheads in the UEE arsenal, and they make most of the missiles in the UEE arsenal. And they have since they were founded, practically. The Banu would like gold, but they would like gold if it was an artisanal way. If it was a very good artistic expression, because Banu love uniqueness. They love skill and uniqueness. So if there was something that was made with incredible craftsmanship and care, but it was made out of gold, yeah, they'd love it. But it could be made out of poop for all they care, as long as it's unique. I don't know who makes the current bombs. They might be made by Hurston, though I doubt that they are. I'm sure they're made by Crusader, because personally, like individually. They kind of love shiny things, but they love shiny things because they're unique. That's the main thing. Completely related, just read a news article about 2 minerals that have been found on an asteroid fragment that have never been found on Earth before. There we go. No. Crusader's Moab is nothing on the Hurston's antimatter warheads. That Moab is bad. Antimatter warhead is like, you see that continent? Yes, I do not want to see that continent anymore. Continent denial weapons. That's literally what they were used for. The only time we have records of them using it is to bomb the shit out of Tiber because the Vandul were taking it. They're just like, well, fuck you and everything on this planet. We're not letting you harvest this shit. Hey, thank you for signing up for Factor. Trust me, it's worth it. I do want to hear your honest opinions for those of you who managed to get it, especially if it comes up for that. Because, like I personally use them. They're really good. Are they like the best food I've ever ate? Hell no. but they're like quality up there with, say, you know, an Applebee's. Might just get you to 40. Hey, maybe. Friendly A2 with antimatter at Jumptown win. Hey, Tyrek. This better be good, Paul. Check out what you got. Like I said, check out your menu and check it out. Hopefully you got that code that got 50% off. If you did there, author. You obviously did that. I trust me on this. It is good food. Hey. New commercial right there. Factor, it's good eating. I'm just shilling for Factor and people are buying it, which is nice. And to make it feel better, to make y'all feel better, every time someone buys a Factor box, I get $50 using my code. So you get 50% off, and I get some money for it. So thank you for that. And you get meals for free. So it's like a donation to me that you also get meals for. So what's the difference of Factor over Fresh? Over HelloFresh? They're owned by the same company. HelloFresh owns both of them. The difference between HelloFresh and Factor is HelloFresh sends you all the materials and like all the instructions. It basically gives you a pre-made meal that you cook and prepare yourself. And Factor is those meals, but you don't have to prepare for them. You just stick them in the microwave and hit 2 minutes and go. !Factor is how you get that link. So I don't think Squadron 42 is close till Valk gets a rework. Why do you think that, 89? Hey, Jin, thanks for that 42 months. I am the answer to the ultimate question about life, universe, and everything. Thank you, Jin. Let him cook. Should be active. There you go. It is, but I'm wondering where you're getting that Valk getting a rework. Does the Valk need a rework? It does. Mostly the it's not terrible, but it's the back end is a problem. The open air canopy, basically the open air where like your crew gets vented every time you change. It needs the armor. Well, the armor isn't necessarily a Valk thing. The armor is all of Squadron 42. And they do have armor right now. Armor is in the game right now. It's just not the adding and removing of the armor that they had before. I know it's off topic, but did you see the Giants vs. Grave Olympics? I did see that, Tarek. Nice. How'd it go? I've never played Age of Sigmar, so I don't know how it plays in comparison. It needs a weapons rack? I believe it has weapons racks. The info runners talked about the need for a rework last week. Was I on that one? Because I was on one recently. It needs one mostly because every time you open the doors, it will evacuate the air. So anyone who's sleeping in those beds just gets fucked. Like, there needs to be a crew cabin and a cabin for the troops. Yeah, the upstairs needs to be sealed. My first game, Gravelords won. Second game, not Giants won because the Giants together strong. Yeah, nice. I know there's a lot of wasted space. It doesn't really have a lot of wasted space. I think it's pretty good. I don't know how you'd be able to more efficiently create the space that they already have. I guess you could rearrange some things here and there, but it's all right for what it does. The side doors would be nice to have a HUD. Yeah, well, I mean, here's the process as well. So for those of you who don't know, part of the one why I have the ship armor update is because we did get an update that said it's in the game. They have it working. In fact, we actually know that armor is in the game right now. It actually does work in game. The problem is that's not the armor we're talking about. We're talking about the ability to add and remove the armor to ships, which is a big part of the PvP and PvP balance and the balance of combat in general. But let me kind of walk you through the problem that CIG has right now. Basic flight is changing. Now, that I could have said that at any point during the Star Citizen's development because it's changed like 5 or 6 times in the last 10 years, like significantly changed. But in this case, it has to do with quantum. Because of how they're doing the new quantum boost mode, which I'm sure is a work in progress. I don't even think that's the full name. That whole thing needs to be added, it is being added, it's in the game, it's being worked on, it's being refined. That is also going along with how ships and like the thruster efficiencies are going to be working to try to make it a little bit better. Adding things like control surfaces on ships that will make them handle better in atmosphere. All of that process is the step 1 to doing a lot of other things. On top of that, the entirety of the HUD, all of the HUDs, and the MFDs are getting entirely reworked. This goes along with the star map. Effectively, everything from the mobiGlass to the MFD to the HUD, and I think even the FPS HUD, all of it's changing. All of it's being updated to match for Squadron. It's all being done in Squadron. We kind of got a little bit of it during CitizenCon. They showed off a little bit of it. But if you haven't been following the Squadron 42 monthly reports, which I know a lot of you aren't because it's not my best it's not my best viewage when I release those. But it's significant. Like a lot has changed to the point where it sounds like what they're doing is creating what I call the Sauron systems, one tool to rule them all and in the darkness bind them, which they tend to like to do a lot. The tools which have multiple purposes that can be used multiple different times. It sounds like they're trying to make a tool that will specifically, or a HUD that they can specifically copy pasta everywhere. Stuff that's on the HUD can be added on an MFD, and MFD can be on a HUD, and so on and so forth. All of these different kind of movable pieces. That also needs to be done, which is a huge portion of combat and gameplay. Then on top of that, they need the resource system, which is currently being worked on, and it has no time, like there's no real timeline for that we know. More than likely, it will be complete by the end of this year, because the team that was working on it is now already starting to kind of work on the high-end concept stuff is already starting to work on refinery, which means that team has pushed it down the line to the point where it's got to be finished, which is what it's in the process to do. You intentionally avoid Squad 42 news. Well, yeah, but I mean, a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about is stuff that's important for Star Citizen, because it's not coming out to Star Citizen until they get it working for Squadron 42, and I mean really working for Squadron 42. Now, upside is a lot of that stuff should be done by the end of the year. A lot of that stuff is done like probably by the summer, including the new star map. But we probably won't see it until 4.0, earliest, is my guess. Which means that once all of that is done, then they could start worrying about the damage system and the new damage system, because they can't even get the damage system to function properly until they can get the resource system to work the way they want it to do. Hi, Paul. How are you? I have a question that might be tricky. I see a few YouTube comments, especially with the Routledge 13, that Star Citizen-focused content creators are too tied up with CIG and are afraid of being really critical of the current situation. Well, even if I don't really believe this theory, do you think that the proximity that many content creators might have with people from and/or communication in the studio that puts forward a lot of developers, which has the effect of humanizing development of the game, could alter the bias and judgment of some content creators, which would sugarcoat too much when it comes to criticizing, while they would do less for a studio with more classic comms? I mean, yes, that's definitely true. I know a lot of people who work for CIG, but it's important to also note that I don't know a lot of people who work for CIG because I actively sought out to know these people. These are people who were already members of the community. And I think that's the important thing to note, is that a lot of the people that content creators know are people who were like their mods in their chats, or were people who actively commented and participated in their Discord, who just happened to work for CIG. A great example of this is Proxys. Proxys is effectively the linchpin that holds up most of CIG's functioning servers. He is the wizard behind the wall, behind the veil. He's doing so much fucking work to the point where I sometimes worry about his health and really hope he can take a break sometimes. He's constantly working. And he didn't get that job because he was, he was like friend of Chris Roberts. He got that job because he was really well known in the community, had the skill set for it, applied for it and became it, and then over time became this huge kind of like facet of CIG and helped the game develop. So while I think close personal relations are important, I think it's also important to note that if CIG were to fuck around, I would know fairly quickly. I think most content creators would know fairly quickly, because as a very easy, the important thing to note is that I am friends with, say, Proxys or Jake. I'm not friends with CIG Proxys and CIG Jake. I'm friends with those individuals. And I think the same thing goes with most content creators. I know people who've worked for CIG in the past who still do other content, that I follow their content because, Jay Lee is a great example. I know some of these people well enough to know, at least in confidence, that I'm sure they would tell me if something weird was going on or if there was something really bad that was happening. So I think it's a dual sided thing. It's not necessary. I think people who say that, oh, well, content creators are too close to there, and so it's more personalized. That's true. But I'm not friends with CIG. I'm friends with their employees. And while the employees are doing a job that they are passionate about, I also can guarantee you that they dislike content when it happens as well. Does that make sense? Oh, we were kind of in the middle of it, Risto. We'll kind of talk about it here in a moment. What's Star Citizen content creators do other than criticize CIG? I mean, I have been, me and Jake have not seen eye to eye on certain topics, and we probably won't. Salty Mike is, I would say he's more positive than people give him credit for. I think he gets a little bit of a reputation because can be more critical of the development, but he is not salty as much as people think he is. Sorry for the long question. I hope that I understood the question. Yeah, I get what you're saying. What you were saying is effectively, are Star Citizen creators too close to CIG, to individuals at CIG, and so thus it humanizes them, thus they're less likely to be as critical with what CIG does because they're afraid it might hurt their feelings. I can tell you this right now. If I had a serious problem with CIG, Xylo would understand that. The only thing I would probably get is Xylo say, can you talk to me first? That would probably be it. But I have gone off on CIG and got a request afterwards, like, hey, can we talk about this? So, like, we can and do go off on CIG. And a great example of this, which I think is a little past now, is the 2018 CitizenCon. Or was it 2018? Yeah, it was 2018 CitizenCon. When Chris Roberts, in his infinite fucking wisdom, decided he was going to make CitizenCon pay-per-view. That was the dumbest fucking decision since the Star Citizen live stream of 2016. And literally everyone in the in the community was like, fuck you. Because his argument was, well, Blizzard does it with BlizzCon, and everyone was like, you're not fucking Blizzard, Chris. You haven't even released a goddamn game yet. Can you take your little ego and kind of check it a little bit, buddy? You're right. Frustration comes out in his, from his passion. Yeah, exactly. It was fucking stupid. It was absolutely dumb, and they changed it. And I think that's more of a reflection. I think people who, I think there's a perspective issue. People who would say like, hey, content creators are too close. I think misunderstand that CIG isn't necessarily close to content creators because they're content creators. CIG just talks to people. Like, the average response that CIG gives on Spectrum is not to me or Mike or Board or any creator who would be on Spectrum. It's to the average person. So I think the issue is more creators are not willing to criticize CIG for things which, I mean, I personally wouldn't call problems. And I think a lot of people who may not be as familiar with the project would call those problems because they're used to seeing those problems in other studios. But unlike those other studios, because CIG is so open, a lot of the issues seem to be like, oh, well, for instance, people said, oh, well, the marketing production does this, or this. Based off of my understanding of talking with CIG and people who I know work at CIG, marketing barely has any input on a lot of these things. They're mostly there to just do with what they have, rather than being like, hey, let's make this thing and make this. They tend to not be this kind of evil, calculating maniac behind the scenes. And you can see of their budget, it's a joke. They don't really. Do they make mistakes? Oh, yeah. Oh, fuck yeah. The whole running YouTube ads in the middle of 318 being a goddamn dumpster fire, dumbest fucking decision I have seen. That is absolutely stupid, and they should at least do a post-mortem on that and see if it helped them or hurt them. And I will just say this, if they do it again in 319 is that much of a shit show, I am going off. But I don't know a lot of people in CIG's marketing department anymore. So a lot of the two people I knew who worked for CIG's marketing department don't work for them anymore. So. I wouldn't call CIG Salty Michael White Knight, just a night he's honest when he thinks CIG is being stupid. Oh yeah. Yeah, no problem, Odysseus. I think it's just more. I think it's a lot of the community of Star Citizen is huge. I think a lot of people don't take that into account. There are people from all over the goddamn globe. There are more people who follow this game than I realized when I realized that there is a huge South Korean community, and Japanese community, and Chinese community. Like, I just like, what? No, this isn't the kind of game that you'd see a lot of the Asian market play, just because I'm so used to the kind of games that come from Asia's market. And I'm like, apparently I'm entirely fucking wrong. This is pretty big and outside of, the more Western countries. And I'm like, I don't know fucking what I'm fucking doing anymore. Like, there is a big enough community that the German community hosts its own convention and gets a huge number of people. The Star Citizen community is incredibly large. And it's hard to really pin down any one community. And as a result, communities like cliques and little niche little groups will form, and they're insular. So they don't necessarily know about the other communities. And so it can lead to a lot of miscommunication and problems and so on and so forth. So yeah. I think there still are a lot of fans in Ukraine. It's a little harder to play. I have issues with some CIG's decisions, and I voice it, but I still try to do it in a respectful way. And I think that's the key there. that a lot of people misunderstand. And this is something I'm going to try to be as careful as possible how I talk about this. But if you want to change CIG's mind, being current, direct, and polite about your concerns is a lot better than being mad, loud, and getting a lot of attention. Because CIG are people too, and the people who work there take it very personally when you insult something of theirs. Because they'll be like, hey, I worked my fucking ass off. I spent fucking weekends working on this thing. I think it's pretty good. And then some asshole who has 1,000 people watching them goes, this fucking sucks. This is terrible. Who the fuck made this? Kind of shit. And yeah, it gets pretty defensive about those sorts of things. But the people who have the most impact on changing CIG's minds are people who have critique, who are thoughtful about it, and who are fair, I say, with their assessments. There's a reason why the ship team likes Morph, because Morph is very in-depth. He's careful. He's an artist. He's very good at editing and crafting stories and videos. Dude is a master at it. And because he does these architect reviews, they respect him and want to talk with him, which makes sense. Decorum, yeah. The other way to do it is meme the shit out of it. That's because CIG are humans, and memes are funny. So if you make a good meme, they will catch on to the meme. You're saying I have to be a reasonable adult? Or you can be a complete goblin. That works too. but not in an offensive way. I practice my French listening to Eradicator, yeah, or Arad. I do a few memes. I too am a bit of a meme lord myself. Oh, Silky coming in with those. Thank you so much for that hype. We got a hype train almost started. Silky, thank you for that. Giving those 5 subs, and we also had something else coming in, didn't we? Oh, Grim, how you doing, Grim? Sorry, I gotta get that whole things. So let me go back to basically talking about my point to the whole thing is that with that armor update saying it's going to be a while, but it's in the game. They've actually had it working on a Gladius. Almost certainly it's waiting for Squadron 42. And Squadron 42 is not done yet. It's not in beta. It seems like it's getting close to it. And I wouldn't be surprised if we got an announcement of Squadron 42's release date at the end of this year, and or a release date or announcement about them going into beta, where they finished everything and they're just kind of working at it now to try to make it good. And the armor system is in game now. So the idea of having kind of changeable armor system makes sense and likely will happen sometime next year, would be my guess. But you've still got a lot of other prerequisites that need to happen. Hey, Sadie, how you doing? I like that thing you showed me, by the way. What do you think? Second cargo refactor will be 320. Whole C come with this? I think they want to, but it's hard to tell. I don't think we're going to see the whole C until we have Pyro. To be kind of brutally honest, I don't think we're going to see the whole C come out until the system is in place to support it, including the cargo containers. How do you Shadowfaxes again? There still may be a slip twixt dress and drawers, yes. Hey, the real KG. I'm new to the game. Why do they put so much time and resources into Squadron rather than Star Citizen? It's a couple of reasons. Number one, it's important to emphasize this, especially if you're new. They're the same game. A lot of people think that they're two separate. No, they're the same game. You can think of them as like they use the same engine, they use the same assets. Everything is the same. The goal with Squadron was to make a single-player experience that they could then use as a kind of like a building block that they can then pump out new single-player games every 2 to 3 years. But they need a game before they can do that. And because Star Citizen and Squadron 42 are the same, they're together. So everything that's made for Squadron will be going into Star Citizen. It's just a delay. You can think of it as like internal development. Squadron 42 is like almost like a beta for Star Citizen for many of its features, but it just needs to go in there first. Their goal is to release Squadron 42 as a separate standalone game that people will then purchase, and releasing a new single-player experience every couple of years will allow them to sell a game that they could then use to continue to fund Star Citizen. Because, quite frankly, the amount of money that a single-player standalone title can make compared to Star Citizen, they could probably make the entirety and probably more of Star Citizen's yearly, $100 million. They could probably make that with one release of Squadron. Like Squadron 42 may make that money, if not more. And over time, every time they sell a new person Squadron, they make that money again. So it's just it's a good income flow for a game that they can get fixed and complete and put it out there, and sets that groundwork for future single player games to do the same, which won't require as much work as the first game. No problem. I think there's a lot of people who complain that, like, oh, well, because Squadron 42 isn't playable yet, it's a waste of time. And it's like, not really, it's just a delay. I think the reality is, and this is going to be, I'm going to be brutally honest, those of you who are concerned or angry that Squadron 42 is getting attention, you wouldn't have gotten Star Citizen out faster. Star Citizen wouldn't be in a better place if they were focusing on Squadron 42. Star Citizen would look exactly the same as it is now, only maybe with some features, some extra features in there. But it would still be as buggy, as broken, and as unfucking playable as 318 has been. Why? Because everything that comes into Star Citizen right now is not coming into Squadron 42. PES or server meshing, they'll utilize it, but it's not Squadron 42. Squadron 42 isn't slowing down Star Citizen's development. Star Citizen is slowing down Star Citizen's development. Yeah, that's a good point. The point is that the reason why they're doing that method is, at least last we heard, was because Aaron Roberts, who ran a studio with much of the people who lead the Manchester office, made the original Lego games. And that's how they made the Lego games. They built one game, used the pieces from it, and then repeated those pieces over and over again, which meant that they could pump out a new Lego game every 2 to 3 years. It's similar to how Call of Duty works, how they work with Call of Duty as well. Basically reskins, but with new additions. No one complains about the Lego games being reskins. Do you believe they really needed to test PES, therefore they threw Xenothreat at it? They said that. They said that in the monthly report. Do you believe that they're using that data? Half of us can't play it to make changes. Yeah, they are. They will, and they probably will in the future. But I don't blame anybody who came in with 318 and be like, this is a pile of garbage, because 318 is a pile of garbage. I said it on Twitter, and I'll say it here. 318 is the worst patch that CIG's ever released. Hands down, the worst patch. And it has a lot to do, not with the fact that we've had buggier releases in the past, but because 318 is the beginning of the patch where Star Citizen is starting to become a complete experience. I saw one kind of automated kind of bot, one of those API scrapers that someone created a long time ago, which is like, how complete is Star Citizen? And it said Star Citizen is 53% complete. 53 to 56% complete. And I'm like, God damn, if that's right in any way, shape, or form, that's pretty fucking insane, considering where we were with 3.0 and 2.0. And 2.0 and 3.0 were bad, but they didn't really have anything. You didn't have progression. You couldn't buy ships. You couldn't buy new equipment with any of those. You could make money, but it would get wiped every patch. So 3.18's being released as bad as it is, and don't get twisted. 3.18, 3.18.1, 3.18.2 is hot dog shit. It is terrible. And I don't think CIG would disagree. Unfortunately, it had to be done, and there was probably no other way of doing it because they were changing everything so dramatically. No, 4.0 is not beta. The 5.0 will be beta, but yeah. Do you think a lot of the new content actually exists, but they haven't implemented because of PES? No, a lot of the content exists. They just haven't put it in because of other factors. We know there's a lot of content that's in the background that's being worked on. They talk about it. Things like the AI stuff. But good example is the AI system got completely reworked last year. And some of that new rework is in the game, but most of it isn't. So when you see people complain about how they go into like 30 FPS servers and they're like fucking Terminators, the AI just turns on and shoots you instantly, is because that AI is old. It's old AI they had to try to tweak to try to get it to work with low FPS, and now that the FPS has jumped sometimes, they're just over-tuned and stuff like that, seeing you behind walls and stuff. They have new AI systems that were built for Squadron that they were going to put in Star Citizen. And a lot of it is done. A lot of those systems are completely finished, and they could put them into Star Citizen tomorrow. The problem is that the game couldn't handle it because the AI systems were built with 4.0 in mind. They use a lot of resources, and they're pretty intensive, which the game couldn't handle right now. They need to be able to break the game up into smaller servers to increase the number of AI that can be flying around. And we know this because at least, or we don't know this, but we know that this is their thought process because Chris Roberts said so in one of his the CEO said so in one of his letters to the chairman last year, that they want to do the AI, but it requires 4.0. It might have been a Citizen Gun actually. It requires 4.0 before them to put it in there. So it's all right, Jack. I've been following this game for 8-9 years now, so it's fucking it's intimidating and stupidly. There's like a fire hose of information, and it's hard to kind of figure out what exists and what's not. We're missing repairs in game. It's just not player repair. Player shops, true. Drones, true. Ship tractors, which is in development. Cargo elevators in development. Server meshing, which is in development. So like half of what you just said is likely to come out this year. We're missing bounty hunting, which is also in development. But we already have bounty hunting, but like more advanced bounty hunting. Refining, player transport, like being able to carry info running, but all of that is just kind of variations. Modularity, yeah. A current issue I've seen with servers in 3.18.2 is that regardless of where you are, you can be spammed with server info across the star system. Being in Hurston and downloading data from Xenotech on Micro 1, you shouldn't be sync if you're that present. Yeah. Wait, exploration is technically in, but yeah. Hacking, true medical gameplay, exploration, science, farming. Yeah, but again, hacking is also in development. True medical gameplay is in the game. It's just not been expounded upon. Hey, Hassack. I have a limited understanding of this. This is a very monumental step for Star Citizen because of how important PES is. PES is one of the three major pillars of the game. It is. Without PES, you can't have server meshing. Without server meshing, you can't have Star Citizen. And everything leading up to PES was also important. Then the other major pillar, which is sort of is the quantum system, which is the dynamic economy. It's just not hooked up to anything. What about skill advancement? I mean, it's there, but it's mostly for Squadron, and I don't think I think that's done for Squadron or in the process of being done for Squadron. Without Star Citizen, you can't have other systems. Wait. They mentioned advanced camera controls, but haven't seen any update on that. Yeah. Likely because it hasn't been tested. It's three pillars of the PES, the Quantum, and the Tana. Oh, I forgot that you were the zealot of the Tana. Half-sack. Yeah, PES is required because it's the only way you can persist beyond game sessions. It's the way you can transfer information from one game session to another without being tied to the server, and storing all that information to allow things like base building and all sorts of stuff like that. Yeah, capital ships won't. You can't actually store capital ships. They're going to have to be parked. So as a result. Best part is I don't even own Titana. I'm going to Star Citizen even in Ohio in June. What? Star Citizen? What do you mean going to Star Citizen even in Ohio in June? What do you mean, Jack? Oh, an event. Oh, an event in Ohio. I don't know. I don't know what event there is in Ohio. Probably not. I'm in Texas, so. It's a Bar Citizen, yeah. Oh, right. That's the CIG thing. Probably not. Gotta be honest, I probably have some work stuff I gotta do, but. There's Bar Citizen and Equinox? Okay. He's going to Star Citizen IRL. How you doing, Vienno? Oh, Via Nocturne. I got Via Nocturne. New eval leaks show they pumped up the active modules in mining. I don't doubt it. Effectively, the best way of understanding. Paul, I heard Texas is giving you guns if you want them, so you're going to blast some criminals or not? Oh, are you talking about? No, they ain't paying for shit. I'm a teacher in Texas. It's like, they ain't paying for shit. They won't pay it for me. That's the thing. It's like, they'll say a lot about shit in Texas, especially around schools. They're like, they ain't going to pay shit for it, though. Why do people consider Squadron 42 a black box of development? Do they not read or just more info? Well, I think the problem is that a lot of people play Star Citizen because they want to play Star Citizen. It would be kind of like if you paid for, say you paid $100 for a Starfield, and Bethesda turns around and said, okay, yeah, but we're putting a lot of the people who would be developing the gameplay aspects of Starfield into this other game that has nothing to do with Starfield, or is like a side story of Starfield. We want to get that out first. A lot of people would be like, well, I didn't buy that game. I bought Starfield. So I get the feeling. I get the understanding. It's a very easy thing to understand. The problem is that I think a lot of people don't want to or don't have the ability to look a lot of stuff up because they either avoid spoilers. There's not a lot of people who cover Squadron 42. I'm one of the few who actually actively covers Squadron 42 news and developments. Because I still think that half of the community doesn't know what the fuck Squadron 42 is. Like they probably have never even heard that there's a single player game that's being developed in the Star Citizen universe using the Star Citizen engine that's going to be out in some time in the future. Did you grow up in Texas, or what brought you there? Well, my family's from Texas. My mom, my grandmother was born in Texas. My mom grew up in Texas, went to Stephen F. Austin University. My cousin, her sister, and my cousins live here. Oh, I think one of them still lives here. The other ones they live in Dallas. And so at the time, when we first moved here, my family was living in California, and my wife's family lives in Tennessee. So we were like, this is a good halfway between. And Austin was the kind of vibe we were looking for. And, we moved from Tennessee to California. And when we moved there, we were like, this is a terrible place. I wouldn't want to live here. We talked about living in Austin just because we could buy a house, get a job, buy a house, and those sorts of things we wanted to do. So, and because I had family that went too far away, it was like, yeah, sure, let's do it. Good food too, yeah. And I knew people here. I had friends who lived here, so it was not that difficult. I think they just passed a bill to raise the teacher salary. Did they? Because last I heard, they shot that down. They were going to pass it, and then they shot it down. Hey, Paul, do you watch anime? Yes, I do. If you do, what you're watching? I'm currently watching Vinland Saga. Vinland Saga is pretty good. Last anime I watched was, I watched a movie that came out recently, which is by the same people who made Your Name, called Suzume, which is really good. It was really good. If you like crying, go see that. But the last anime I actually finished watching, probably Spy Family was the last one I've watched. I haven't been able to watch a lot of anime, so. Yeah, no, I was born in San Francisco, raised in the Bay Area, and when I was 18, I moved to Tennessee to go to school in Tennessee. Now, then I lived in Tennessee for 10 years, or around 10 years, and then I moved back to California for like a year or two, and then moved here to Texas, and I've been here for 6 years, so. Half Sack is talking to Half Sack. Heard they were increasing Texas teacher salary from and paying for them to get firearm training. That's the first I've heard both of those. I mean, I've heard the firearms thing in the past, but that's not anything new. Yeah, the last I heard that they had canceled that. I haven't been paying attention to that because it's Star Week. It's been Star Week last couple of weeks. So for those who don't know, that's state testing. So my brain is fried. That's why I haven't been able to do a lot of the lore stuff, because it's been panic mode. Testing. Glorious, worthless testing. All right, let's go through this. The other problem with Star Citizen is that people do not the alpha, beta release path of software development. They've literally paid to be lab rats. The iterative changes that may not break everything is SOP for an alpha, a piece of software. The fact that they get sidetracked by game balance and other issues is part of that boggles my mind. And then more than everything, it's going to crap when the patch drops. Well, I mean, yeah, CIG's. I think it's probably better to argue that the reason why CIG or why Star Citizen is delayed is because of its release model. Like, Star Citizen would be much further along in development if they didn't have to release quarterly patches. Probably would have been released a year or two ago, if they didn't have to spend so much time getting it to a state where players can play it as an actual game. But at the same time, there's no way Star Citizen would exist without the current funding model, which is one of the reasons why I say no game will ever be Star Citizen or even try to be Star Citizen, because it just isn't making any money, and it's not viable as a game for most markets. Very worthless sets. Well, the problem is it doesn't actually measure anything, and like, I get the purpose of it, but there's a long litany of stuff. Educators and people who study education for a living have known that standardized testing doesn't do what they want it to do. The only reason why it exists is because the standardized test companies lobbied the shit out of the government in the early 2000s and paid a lot of politicians a lot of money. There's a lot of good documentaries and some good reports out there about that kind of talk about that whole process. Hey, Victoria. Looks like they did. Huh. Good to know. That's for retired teachers, though, Mongo, not for active teachers. I'm not retired. It's all owned by one company that makes everything for schools. I think there's a couple of companies, but yeah, for here it is. It's all made by the same. How you doing, first Tasty? You think there'll be a time that they or make ships that don't sell that has to be to work again? Man, I hope. As Mike said once when I was on a podcast with Mike, and he says, I dare CIG to make a fucking game. And I'm 100% with him on that. Give me something that I can earn in game. That I can pull out my wallet for. I think that'd be perfect for Titan suits. Honestly, I think Titan suits would be a perfect example for that. But Hold on, still reading. Okay, thank you, Mongo. And Jordan, thank you so much for that VIP. So anyway, I started blasting 3 months of VIP on YouTube. Thank you so much for that. Actually, I should probably turn on the alerts because I don't think I have them on. That's like how I hate. That's the problem. Like, for instance, what's a better use of studying history and social studies, my topic that I teach, in my opinion, at least, for students, is critical thinking and problem solving. Being able to use a little bit of information, extrapolate what you can from that information, and see if it works. And history is a great place for that because you can study documents, pull out information like perspective and context, and learning context and perspective is important for critical thinking. And that's much more valuable skill than knowing the entire Declaration of Independence or Constitution. Like word for word, or knowing the preamble for the Declaration of Independence or Constitution. That's not going to help you in the real world. Understanding what those rights are in the Constitution is very important. How they've changed and the nuances behind them, that's very important. But that's not what matters. What matters is, can they pass a test? Can they understand that the Constitution is the supreme law of the land? It's like, okay. Or the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. Like, that's the thing. I've been playing Star Citizen for some time, but I only bought 2 ships, not including the starter package. I feel like I've bought ships with my wallet while I play the game. That's a good point. My best time playing Star Citizen has been 0 to Hero, where I just start with a starter ship, and that's it. I love it. It's the best way of playing the game. Oh yeah, no, school needs a huge rework, but the problem is that there's too much vested in school and education from like all sides of every direction for it to change right now. School should be focusing on skills and other things. There's still information; it's important. Like understanding the history of the United States is very important because with understanding the history of the United States, understands the history of like where we came from and why things are the way they are now. You can basically draw that line back. Same with like world history and all those sorts of things. It's important to understand the context of those sorts of things. And mathematics are still important to understand geometry and algebra, and then science with like biology and chemistry. Even if you never use those things, it's important to understand some of those assets, some of those parts, because you never know when they can come in handy, and it makes for a more diverse, understanding. Even English, we're learning how to write a persuasive essay, how to write and read, in more details are important. Because learning how to write persuasively is a great way of getting a job, or a lot of jobs require that sort of thing. So there's nothing wrong with, I don't think, the topics that we teach. I think it's just the way that we approach them is the problem. But again, I'm not going to get too much into education. Do not get me sidetracked on education. We'd be here all night. I've taught high school for 10 years. I got opinions. I think big ships ruins the Star Citizen experience for me. I can see why some people want it, but I think the average person doesn't need those large things. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say, like, Sigelian shouldn't have huge ships or Algorith shouldn't have huge ships, because they're not buying those huge ships for themselves. They're buying it as part of another experience with their groups and their others like that. So, yeah. Oh, God, I vote Paul to be president and head of education system. No, you would hate me. You'd hate me as the head of the education system. You'd win me over if we had geometry for the construction industry pitch for roof angles and stuff, instead of one size fits all that never gets used again. I will date these very briefly. A couple of the problems with the United States system is that it is still based in the old agricultural system. Why kids have 3 months off in the summer is because was when those kids were needed to harvest the fields, to come in for harvest time. So, and the reason why there was a large break in the December in the winter has everything to do with it was too cold, and there was lots of there's other factors. We're stuck in like the 19th century. Most places outside of the United States have year-round schooling, but it's not year-round schooling. It's just they take like a couple of weeks to a month break every 3 to 4 times a year. So they end up having the same amount of time off as normal schooling in the United States does. But in the United States, it's this big chunk, which doesn't help anybody because people lose their information. So like just copying a lot of what the other countries do would make a huge stride into helping students stay in the education mindset year round. The other thing is focusing on skills. Students, by the time they're sophomores, need to be starting to, especially juniors and seniors, need to start thinking about what they're going to do outside of high school. Even if it's not their forever life thing, just understanding what to do and being adapted to things like not having a pre-scheduled, get there at 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning and leave at 4 or 3 or 4 or 5. They need to have schedules that more look like college or a job, which isn't necessarily, consistent. Gives them more free time, gives them more ability to control their own lives, but they still have a place where they can fail. Because that's the important part about schools, a place where you can fail, and there's no consequences or minimal consequences, and still be able to kind of learn from those mistakes and move forward. And learning things like, hey, maybe I don't want to be an electrician if you go through an electrician's program, or maybe I don't want to go to college because you go through college preps courses and you're just like, this sucks. So those sorts of things would be a little bit better. And we have models that exist outside of the United States and inside the United States of what I just talked about. It's just, they're not the common standard because you can't sell tests like that. Exactly. You make a mistake in geometry in school, someone doesn't die in a building collapse. Yeah. In Asia, they just don't have holidays. There's a holiday a teacher give their students to work to do. They prefer school. I think there is some things that are not as effective. I think the method you see in places like Japan and South Korea, and I don't know so much China, it might be the same in China, like homework is not an effective tool. It just doesn't work. It's used as a crutch for not having enough time to learn the topics that you're trying to teach them. It doesn't work. It ends up being a punishment rather than being a tool, which the whole point of education is for learning. But yeah, I'm off of that. Okay, I will say, Pathos, I understand what you're talking about. Where an employer isn't asking for a skill and you don't use that skill in real life, why are you teaching it? There is some aspect of soft skills which can be taught with certain subjects. Like, for instance, the majority of students are not going to be lawyers. But understanding the Constitution and how the law works kind of impacts you. You hope it never actually has to happen. But learning what your rights are and, how to deal with government is a part of your life, even if it's not a daily occurrence. Geometry is still important to understand other subjects of math, and calculus is as well, though to a degree of how it's taught and the way it's taught may be a little bit different, but it's still important. But like economics, for instance, economics affects you on a daily life, but when's the last time you actually looked up the basket of from the Department of Treasury, or is it measurements? I can't remember which one. I think it's measurements. No one looks at the fucking basket. No one gives about the goddamn basket, but it's important to learn about it because they understand that's how we measure standard of living. And even things like supply and demand. You've probably heard of it. You probably haven't drawn a supply and demand graph since you left high school. You probably couldn't tell me the law of supply and demand unless you were actively in that sort of business, or what the difference between elastic or inelastic demand, or the mixed economy, or anything like that. But it's still important to understand those topics. Or you tried to buy a video card in the last 3 years. Yeah. Weights and standards. Thank you, Sapelman. Yeah. I think it's weights and standards that does that. I couldn't remember if it's the Treasury, the weights and standards. And weights and standards is everything. The problem about that concept, and I get that, it was like, we should teach teach financial management and simple electrical and home repairs and cooking. We used to, and we stopped, mostly because you stopped paying for it. People, like, we just ran out of money and ran out of time. Like, we just don't have the money to pay for home ec teachers. Why? Because no one wants to teach it. And even if we wanted to teach it, even if it was mandatory, we'd have to get funding from the government, and the government doesn't want to pay us anything. Same reason why we don't have enough money for like music programs. You know? Like, we need a class on how to file a flight antenna. All right. I'm already going to see the comments on this. It's just like, why is Paul talking about education until talking this? Let's get off of this. Oh, no, weights and measurements is the most important department in the whole goddamn government. If you don't know what the weights and measurements department is doing, you are a fool. Like, I believe even inflation is calculated through them too. That I am a fool. You should look that up. Look up the weights and measurements. They have so much power. It is so fucking nuts. That's great way of putting it there, HD. But the difference is that more than likely, your school probably gets more money and more attention for its sports program than it does for its auto class. And Kel, the reason why things are brought down to rote memorization is because of standardized testing. Because that's all that matters. I get paid based off how my kids do on standardized testing, not if they can successfully deconstruct an argument. This is the same discussion when when did you ask your high school what percentage of graduates earn more than median wage 5 years after graduate? Almost none of them, though. And that's because most people who have to work multiple jobs. That's a whole different thing, though. All right, thoughts on more ships like the Argo Raft? I'd like to see more. I would like to see that. Yes, I would 100% love to see that. Sorry, we got on this topic because I think it's good wrap up because I fucking hate standardized testing. Where are you? There you go. All right, let's watch this chat.
In 2865, Hurston Dynamics purchased a planet in the Stanton system and began the process of looking.
Oh, and you still haven't told me why the Cutlass Purple is the best Cutlass? Because purple is a royal color, which automatically makes it better. Because rare is, because purple used to be a super rare color. We associate with power and prestige. So purple is automatically the best color in the color spectrum. Fight me. Number two, it is not just a entertainment facility. It is the tier 0 or tier 1 or lower class implementation of shops that allows you to open up a shop, because if you can host a party, you can run a shop out of that thing. It's also got those side doors, makes it easy to turn it into a nice little stage. It's a perfect kind of crowd pleasing idea. And then we'll move on to this.
For their capital, being careful not to build on the resource intense areas they bought the planet for in the first place. Because you gotta leave all that free for the mining after all. Now, during that search, they designated one particular area already filled with structures that house the on-world workers by the three-letter designation LOR, an acronym for the rather dismissive title, Local Occupational Residency. And after essentially requiring all of their workers to live there, because it makes it easier to keep an eye on everyone, the town eventually gathered an unofficial temporary nickname. And as anyone that's ever built something huge and complex can tell you, there are few things in life more permanent than an unofficial temporary nickname. Now, eventually, the Hurston family made this the center of all commerce and residence on the planet. And thus, Lorville continued to grow and expand and be built upon. And in the upcoming Alpha 319, it's taking its next major step forward towards becoming the thriving, brutalist cityscape old Solomon Hurston would be proud of.
So, that's lore been around for a while, by the way. And that's one of the people, a lot of people call it Lorville, L-O-R-E. No, it's L-O-R-ville. And one thing he didn't say is that Lorville was originally the barracks for people building Central. Now, you've probably heard Central Business District. That's because Central is the name of that giant, like brutalist tower that is the headquarters for Hurston Dynamics. It's just called Central because it's the central office. That's why I call it the business district, because it's the business district inside Central. Central is supposed to be its own separate landing zone with a bar and bed, like apartments, and its own hospital. It has everything that's separate from the Lowerville, but like from Lorville. And Lorville just was the place where they kept the peasants who built the damn central office. So Solomon Hurston, right there.
How would I describe Lorville to somebody who's never seen it?
Lots of crazy stuff happened there. I don't know, man. It's very dusty. Definitely very dusty. Yeah.
I think it would be something that's a place that's very polluted. It would be a place that's very oppressive, but also pretty lively at the same time.
Defends the empire.
Working there day and night.
Lorville is essentially a mega city. It's sprawling. It's huge. And it's on a Stanton 1 planet inside the Stanton system.
The story of Lorville, I know that it's been, it was built by a company, a family business.
It's ruled by the Hurston family. And it's very...
That's Solomon Hurston. That's the paterfamilias, the original founder of Hurston Dynamics. Smart motherfucker. And he is, to show you how old this was, he founded Hurston Dynamics after first contact with the Banu. 24, I want to say 80 or something like that, 2450. I'd have to look that up again for this direct date, but like in the 25th century. We're in the 30th century. So Hurston's been around for 500 years, just about.
It's a very authoritarian regime.
Place that's very expensive in the scale of it.
Reminds you a little bit of 1984, that kind of stuff, maybe. Also a little bit of a Tyrell Corporation from Blade Runner, something like that. That's what comes to my mind when I think of Lorville, yeah.
So a landing zone like Lorville is a hub for the players. It has many services. There's the habs, the habitations, and from there, they can spawn. There's the hospitals. There's shops. There's missions.
That's new and different.
Obviously, multiple areas.
That is interesting and different because those are landing pads. I think on the new roof structures, but I think. If I remember correctly, everything in Lorville is the same in terms of the actual places you go to. They didn't change those, Tisa Spaceport and the main areas we live. That's all the same. It's just the area around it has changed.
Areas and some new areas as well.
When you're arriving from your ship, the first thing you're going to see is you're going to see the CBD, of course,
Central Business District. And this is where the Hurston family oversees the city.
These are the Hurstons that they're named after. So this is Ariel Hurston, who I believe was the first one to develop. No, that's Aberdeen. Aberdeen is the one who developed the first antimatter warhead. Ariel was the one who was one of the first. Like he's like the third Hurston in power after Solomon. There's some major thing he did. I think it was the work contract that he first created, like the first kind of real change in how Hurston does business. This is Ita. Ita died in the First Avarn War. She was Special Forces, Navy Special Forces, and died in the very beginning of the First Avarn War. And she was married to a Hurston. Her husband was the Hurston. She just took his name when she married. And then Magda Hurston, she's one of the more recent ones. She's the one who negotiated the sale of Hurston itself. So Hurston was purchased by her, and she died after that. I believe she was the one who introduced the work-life contracts. She's a shrewd-ass businesswoman, too. She's been around a while. Very well-educated, has multiple degrees, is a absolute cutthroat. But and these are what the moons are named after.
There's the spaceport that obviously has a lot of the transit line going to. You can also go to the L19, where there's obviously some residential.
Leading up from like the center, we have like those transit lines that are like going in different directions from the center of the city. And from there, there's many districts inside the inner city. In the inner city, we represent the different classes of the residents of Lorville. There's areas where there's more wealth. These are like higher up top, and they have like gold cladding on their buildings. And we have like lower areas that are like closer to the industrial areas. And it's mainly residential and commercial. We have like lots of opportunities for branding. The branding comes mainly
I love
from,
the branding.
Nicolas Martin's team. So we partnered with them, and they.
So the branding team's been fucking amazing. So basically, they're making a bunch of different brands so that they could put them on like all of these different things across all of the different landing zones. So they're making a bunch of, they're basically procedurally generating a bunch of new companies that exist in small form all over the verse, and some bigger ones. So
they come up like with new brands. In turn, the environment art team helped to integrate those into billboards and holograms throughout the city. So the areas like the CBD, the L19 at the spaceport, you're all familiar with. These haven't changed. They just moved slightly because they were already up to a quality that still works today. And what we've worked on is the connecting tissue between those to make like.
Notice that the buildings that are closer to the central have those like gold platings a little bit more fancy, and then as you go further away, you get more and more grim and factory based and all these sorts of things. So, hey, Mark, I'm doing good. We're watching the latest Inside Star Citizen.
Like the city feel actually the big size compared to what it was.
Buildings are now much higher, but you're also going to see how the city now extends further away, a little bit like tentacles, right? And it spreads out into those smaller islands. We call them islands.
So yeah, we see some of these coming around. So yeah, they've had to expand the loop because the loop is much further out now because they had to change it or change it around a little bit more. But yeah, you can see the very center here is still the landing zone right in front of Central. And then that's TISA Spaceport. And I believe L19 is like over here, I want to say. But yeah, all of these are way further out now. My guess is that their plan is in the future to be able to procedurally generate some of those places with their new building tech, but we'll see.
Those are the industrial islands. Let's say you start from the spaceport and you want to travel outside towards the industrial islands. First of all, they're much further away, but they're still connected. You know, they connected using pipelines from the city to the outskirts. And once you get to the industrial islands, you can see, you know, it's filled with chimneys, lots of activities happening there.
This is all these are all antimatter facilities. So these all make antimatter is what my guess is. A lot of them. Some of them may be metallurgical facilities. Some of them may be refueling facilities, because the things that they make are antimatter weapons, missiles, and weapons. So you need all of those sorts of things. Nope, it's poop. Sorry, I have no control over those ads. I didn't run those ads. It's just Twitch being Twitch.
It really shows, the might that is Hurston Dynamics and the Hurston family itself. Yeah, I think that's a good answer.
Okay, that statue is new.
So making
That's a massive statue. I think they're putting more of the statues. I think that was originally in the CBD. They had a bunch of them. Now they're putting them out all over the place, which I like.
Lorville was not like a straight line. There was many like challenges, and we didn't really have expectations of what we could achieve or not achieve. We just went with our feelings, what kind of city we wanted to build, basically.
We tried to create a certain variety of colors inside the city, but overall it remains pretty gray. But at the same time, it's also pretty dusty. It reflects the pollution, how industrial the city is.
And in the end, like, we're just like driving that point that it's like heavily polluted or authoritarian, and that it's in everything we do.
Lighting is very important when you're coming to a location. Where one of the last part that the artist will do, it really brings the life to all the previous work that the environmental artist did.
Lighting drives the eye. It makes us look at places. And
no, I don't think we got a PU patch.
Enhances the contrasts, and we get like a whole better look through that lighting.
The lighting really, it brings in the whole atmosphere. And during the night, we want to bring that feeling of liveliness to the city.
Yeah, night is pretty badass with all the new buildings, the taller buildings, the windows and everything. Little red lights, blinking red lights.
Blinky.
Across the city. As a player, when you come in and you see these giant structures, but also these little lights, it really shows, okay, this is a really big building. Try to put a lot of small details, small elements like street lights, containers, also a little bit of some pathways for vehicles to move around. That really helps to solidify the idea that, this is a giant city, giant facilities that are being built inside the city. And
Chat saying that there was a hotfix yesterday that downloads to the client, so I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah, it's huge.
There's a lot of different.
I was hoping for more ISC after 3 weeks off. This happens every single time. You're going to see this again next time they take a break. They're going to have something like this, which is pretty simple, something they have put together and easier to put out, because that's generally how they tend to process these. They do the ones that are like all based on one thing, and usually something that's closer to release early on, and then they kind of pull it out further. So
Viewpoints right now. So you'll be able to appreciate it from a lot of different distances and viewpoints, even if you're far away.
Still a very bustling city, lots of activities happening. You can also see people taking the train, the transit to move around the city to, get from their habs to their...
That is not in 3.19, but it is something they have already finished working on. So it's something that they have to add into the game, probably 4.0 afterwards, which is seeing NPCs taking the tram. I like this behavior. I don't think I've seen this before. The begging behavior, that's pretty interesting.
Their workplace.
The lighting on the transit line has been really, really improved. You'll have a lot more to see when you're going through these different lines. And I think it's going to be very exciting.
It's not just the lights in the city, but also in the industrial islands. Even though they're a bit further away, they have these giant, I call them cauldrons. It's like burning some sort of material. It's very orangey. It glows a lot. I think you can actually see them from outer space. Lighting at night with those cauldrons. It's really amazing looking.
It looks like Saruman's tower. That's what it looks like.
The atmosphere is really important as well.
Doing good.
It gives
Doing better
the,
now.
The depth that we need inside the city. It makes things like feel believable, and like it adds this layer of realism.
Lorville during the day is very, very polluted, obviously. So when you get into the city, there are very thick layer of clouds. And when you get through these clouds, it's like getting into a new world, in a different world. They cover the top of the building. It's very impressive. They just bring so much to the atmosphere. They really, really kind of put that finish on the daylighting.
Yes, it will, but Hearst and Windy, no. Could be a platform iridium alloy, similar color, if I recall correctly, durable. Could be a charged statue with a field to prevent accretion. Probably could.
Sunlight doesn't actually always touch the ground, you know.
I love the Blade Runner vibe in New Lorville. I mean, that's literally what Lorville was based off of. That's the Tyrell Tower right there. That's what it was. CIG was not subtle with their inspiration. This is Tyrell Tower. ArtCorp is Coruscant. Oh God, what else is there? Let's see. Oh, and Jaglol. I didn't see that you subscribed. Thank you for that. I don't have all my alerts up in progress for that kind of stuff. So
Everything's
Orson's Bespin, yeah, and Microtech is got a bit of a Hoth feel, but I think it's just more of a general kind of vibe.
shade because of the smoke, the smog, the atmosphere. It's so thick, you can't really see into the horizon. You know how many buildings.
So expect low FPS due to clouds there now. Well, you also got to remember the 319 is a little different. 319 also has more Gen 12 stuff in it than the current one does. So it's hard to tell if it's better or not. I haven't played it myself, so I couldn't tell you.
Buildings is there. You know, it's.
Your take on why they're not turning off of Xeno? Because they want us to play it and they get feedback from it and get like data from it. That's why. Because people will play it if it's because I don't think they plan on wiping. I'm afraid they may still have to wipe, but you know that's a lot of money to make, and people will do it because of Xeno.
It's pretty claustrophobic, even though you know it's a giant city. But if you look really far away, you can't really see.
Did I say? I thought I said ArtCorp is Coruscant. Maybe I said something else.
Where it ends because of the atmosphere.
Yeah, but it's almost unplayable at the moment. I mean, CIG. Like the game's going to be unplayable even without Xeno. Like I don't think Xeno is stopping it. It's just that the 318.2 sucks because 318 sucks. This entire patch of 318 is fucking hot garbage.
Did a great job on the atmosphere, and it looks very, very unhealthy, I would say, to be there in that atmosphere for very long.
VFX, they did a great job with, especially the chimneys, the amounts of smoke that the industrial zones are creating. It really emphasizes the pollution aspect.
Will there be fully underground or underwater underground cities to visit? There is actually a couple that are mentioned in the lore that they want to do. But CIG is also part of the whole building interiors. They want to do underground caverns and like drainage ditches and stuff like that. Things for an underground city. A underhive, if you will, in places like Lorville and such. So we'll see. 318 just sucks. It's just so bad. It's the worst patch that CIG's ever released. It's the worst Star Citizen patch. And I covered this earlier. It's not because it's like we've had worse patches, but those patches had nothing. Like 2.0 and 3.0 were good, but like there's a couple of like gimmicky things, but they weren't really games. They didn't have progression. They didn't have a lot of gameplay other than fight and flight. That was it. And now we actually start to see like 318 specifically add salvage. It adds so much more content to the game. But it sucks. It's terrible. It's the worst experience I've had in Star Citizen in years. So yeah.
To how they do business in Hurston. Lighting definitely with the new atmosphere looks really much.
People having player and stuff. 19K errors have come back. 40K errors have come back. Pretty much all of the problems. Like some people can't even play the fucking game. It's just terrible.
Different, and it really showcases the ominous feeling of the city.
The whole composition of the city works through with lighting just hand in hand. Without lighting, like everything looks a bit flat.
And so it's very important in that process to bring kind of the final look, to bring it alive from what the concept art originally kind of said about the location.
I do like what they did with the city, though. Very cool. More like Moorville.
The biggest change from the old Lorville to the new is the scale of those buildings, and they feel much.
No, 318 sucks because of PES, but it's not because PES is a joke. It's because the PES isn't done yet. It's basically, it completely changed the back end of the game, and since everything touches the back end, everything broke.
Much more integrated, lifelike as a city. And that was one of the reasons at the beginning why we wanted to change Lorville, was to get like that proper scale.
These clouds look less pixelated. There's a thing that I've noticed. When I'm playing the game and I look at my recorded footage, the clouds don't look as pixelated as when I'm playing the game. Like when I see the clouds, they look super pixelated. But when I see my recording afterwards, it doesn't look pixelated. I don't fucking know what it is. There's something about pre-recorded footage or recording footage in the game that kind of smooths it out. Maybe it's because of an FPS issue. I don't know what it is. But they've also been doing a lot of work on clouds and other things with the renderers and such. So.
Throughout the city, and that feeling that basically can make.
There's part of an ocean. Yeah, there's
like
an ocean. There's always been an ocean behind Central.
City, making the buildings at the correct scale can enable us later to create interiors for those buildings.
Will it be fixed by 319 though? I have no idea. I honestly don't know. The pessimist in me is saying no. It's going to be as bad in 319. I don't think it'll be worse, but I think I don't think it can be much worse. But I think it'll be as bad, honestly. It's why I'm really hesitant to be like, I really hope CIG doesn't go hard on the ad campaigns for Invictus this year. I hope they lay off at least a little bit, like at the very beginning, just to see if 319 is functional or not. Because if they go hard, it's going to be just a shit show. I will definitely be talking about CIG's failure of an advertisement campaign, but.
And so in that sense, Lorville will be ready for that. Getting close to the city, like especially while flying, like the feeling is just so great. We've lowered the restricted zone as much as we can, and we can really get close to the buildings now. The size of those windows are like true to real life size of windows. The scale.
He's gonna hit that thing.
Feels like really good.
Level design definitely also plays a role inside the city. We try to make sure that players, if they want to fly their ship around buildings or into some of these areas that we call trenches, level design reminded us to, keep some openings so that players can move around them easily. On our side, we also made sure that you can navigate in some of those structures, those trenches. You can do slaloms around those pipelines.
I'm just hoping that CIG at least waits, that the ad team at least waits a fucking 2 or 3 days, just 2 days after you release 319 before you go absolute fucking ham on it. Just please, 2 days. See if the game doesn't just fall on its face again.
And, maybe.
I mean, Jack, here's the thing. I've heard that before, but guess what? Funding is not bad this year. It is on the same pace as last year was for 100 million. Like, it doesn't matter how bad CIG fucks up. It doesn't matter what happens. All it matters is if people think it has potential. I think the average person isn't like myself or other people who've had those issues at 318. I don't know why or how, but it just is. It's definitely not like old backers. So.
Maybe some of those areas could become potential racetracks for the future,
Lorville will have like racing opportunities, I think, because now there's like tunnels, there's cranes, there's sky bridges, there's like big straddle frames, and these can create target points for racing.
Isn't the problem with waiting those ads, buys, or stage timed? They are timed, but you can still pull them. You can still ask them not to run, even if they're timed and staged. Because it's an automated system. There's not somebody who's sitting back behind the counter doing all this kind of stuff with YouTube. It's just you pay for it, you set up time for it, and you run them for a certain amount. You have an account that basically gets that YouTube will use, and that account gets charged to YouTube for all these sorts of things. So, and that's the other problem. Yeah, it's just wasting money for bad advertisement. But again, like I said, it doesn't fucking matter because apparently CIG is still making shit tons of money.
For me, the greatest thing was seeing the team come together and pitch ideas and deliver on those challenges and those ideas.
It's been a lot of work from every department, and especially in lighting, I think it's been a big project that we've worked on. And
hey, Don's0707, thank you so much for that Twitch Prime. I didn't see that. How's it going?
And there's so much details that's been put on every one of these areas. And I think I'll be really excited to see how people react to this. I think it's something that people have been expecting for a long time.
I think for the player, the fact that we can go around these areas, whether it's land vehicles
I love
or
that. That's
using spaceships,
okay. It's not on CBD.
fly around these structures. I think it's going to be a good experience. Yeah.
I hope the players appreciate the new Lorville, just the sheer scale, and that it feels like you can see Lorville from Avery's station. So it makes it like a big impact, I think. And I hope that the players notice.
Okay. Did you notice that?
What did we learn?
Big impact, I think.
What is that? Oh, that's just okay. That's just a raft. That's just raft, right? Okay. At first, I thought when I first saw the front end, I was like, "Is that a fucking?" Okay.
And I hope that the players notice.
So, what did we learn this week? Well, we learned that a landing zone is more than just the three-dimensional geo that forms it. It's that confluence where narrative, level design, branding, lighting, and atmospheric artistry meet commerce, residence, and a foundation for future gameplay opportunities like racing, mission interiors, and more, and that this newest evolution of Lorville is scheduled to make its way to you in next month's Alpha 319. For Inside
Yes!
Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee. Thanks for exploring the process of game development with us, and we'll see you all here next week. Yeah, no, vacation was good. Paris, London, saw some shows.
Jim!
Saw Phantom, you were right, it was great. It actually kind of reminded me of you because
Jim.
you can't see your you both got the same beautiful singing voice.
I love that. All right. Okay, how much more Lorville 2.0 will we see until 319 releases? Well, 319 is releasing in like 2 weeks. So probably not a lot. You'll see it when people do other things. Hey, Galtaki. Jack, that issue you were talking about is an issue that's existed for a very long time. I don't think they update that stuff until the new patch. So you probably will still have it in your inventory until 319 drops. I don't know why, but it's an issue with their back end. They haven't confirmed 319 in 2 weeks, but the leakers, the people who dive through the code, have pulled out the date, which is May 19th. And May 19th is not next week, not the week after next, but the week after that. So almost certainly they'll try to release 319 sometime they'll try to release it with a couple of days ahead of time. So anytime between the 11th of May and let's say the 16th and 17th of May. Yeah, it was on poster sneak peek, yeah. For ILW. We don't know if there's a wipe or not. They haven't said anything about it. I am seriously wondering if they don't do a wipe. I almost certainly they will do a wipe because 319 because we had issues with 19Ks. 19Ks have showed up again, which weren't in 319 or 318.1. They won't tell us until the last minute because they want you to play. So if you're concerned about a wipe, then just don't play until 319 comes out. Yeah, I think it's scheduled for the 20th or the 19th, not the 20th, because the 19th is a Friday. Yeah, it's Friday, and they usually try to start their events on Fridays. Just joined. Is where the salvage scanning changes deliberate? What? Did they change it in 319 or did they change it in 318.2? How do we get 2 days of 318 but a year of 317.2? Because PES. What are 19K? So the 19K issue is an issue where effectively your save file is corrupted, where you no longer have an account. Your account's not registered properly with the back end. So your account is not being recognized by the back end. And so every so often you'll be able to get in after attempting to do so, but it'll wipe all of your progress. Can't scan salvage. Yeah, so that's been an issue that's been happening in 318.2, if I remember correctly, or 318.1. I don't know if that's been fixed in 319, though. I imagine that's not intentional. But I wouldn't be surprised if CIG is hesitant to fix it, because CIG does seem like they are working on new scanning with a lot of the stuff that's been doing with Squadron, which it may or may not come into the game next, or like 320-ish, so. Yeah, 19Ks wipe your backend. And basically it means that your backend, the backend is corrupted, is what it means. But if you keep trying to get in, you can get in, but it'll wipe your entire character. And it was CIG had said that those issues were indicative of an unrecoverable state when they had to wipe everything to get them back into place. That's why they wiped with 318.1, because of that issue. And then, yeah, I don't get it. If we're just to this. I'm just happy I can even log into 318.2. Was getting some super weird port forwarding errors with 318.1. Rocks will scan. It just takes literal minutes to find how much minerals there are in each crappy. Yes. Yes. There is massive amounts of delay and other issues like that. Yeah, ASOP will work and sometimes it doesn't. Here's the key. If you see ASOP up and you see the little X in the top right, hold F while looking at it and move your cursor. You see if you can get a cursor and move up, see if you can't hit the X. Because sometimes you can cancel out and get it back to its working function. It just looks like it's busted. Hoping salvage gets fixed feels like a scam. Test drive of Ultra is very different than those ones we drove off the lot. I think it's more of a bug, though. Should I play Star Citizen or keep lying in bed? Which is more important to you? Lying in bed or screaming at bugs? To be fair, you could roll the dice and you could have a great experience. Or it could be the worst experience in your life. It's a dice roll. Or you can always enjoy the bed. Unless your bed is a dice roll with whether it'll explode and turn on fire. And again, I forgot who, I think it was Odysseus who said, are content creators hesitant to be critical of CIG? No, I'm going to be fucking critical. 318 sucks. It sucks out loud. It sucks backwards and forwards. It sucks more than a Hoover. All right, this thing sucks just absolute shit. It's a fucking, you might as well call 318 the honey wagon patch of how much shit it sucks up. Hey, Tree. You just missed me talking about how 318 sucks out loud. Can you roll the dice for us? Sure. I'll roll a d6. On a 1, you're going to have a worst experience. I'll roll a d10. And I'll tell you what your experience is going to be. If you log in right now, you'll have a 9 experience. One of you will have a 9 experience. Another one of you will have a 5 experience. Another of you will have a 6 experience. And then an 8. And then a 6. So the odds are, according to the random dice I rolled, that if you logged onto the game right now, you'll have an average to good experience with Star Citizen. I'm so excited for the new mining gem. Wanite? I didn't hear about that. So the scale's 1 to good, 10 is bad. What do the bones say, though? I can't tell if my tolerances just get really high or I've gotten lucky during 318.2. I've had problems, sure, but they've just sort of worked around them. Yeah, I've had some okay experiences, and I've also had some god-awful experiences with 318.2. And I do think that it is really kind of, that's one of the reasons why I think 318 as a whole, as a patch, is a terrible patch. Because it's completely inconsistent. At least with 2.0, everyone had fucking crash timers. 3.0, everyone had the same shitty frame rate and crash problems. But 318 is almost like an entire roll of the dice, as I just said, on whether you have the worst game of your career or the really good experience. I've not had a bad time with 318, and corrected the record, 3.7 was the worst patch they've ever had. 30Ks every 15 minutes. But at least it was 30 minutes. It was consistent, 30K every 30 minutes. All right, half sack. Would have been awesome if you would have a real D10. All my dice are in my gaming room, but I have to go pick them up. The worst part about 318 for me, since I'm away from home, is the smooth brains blaming it on Squadron 42. I mean, I've already talked about how Squadron... Okay, hot take, Squadron 42, as I said earlier, is not the reason why Star Citizen is delayed. The reason why Star Citizen is delayed is because Star Citizen is delaying itself. And that sounds weird, but it's because CIG releases patches every quarter. If they didn't have to release a patch every quarter, they'd be much faster. I am a teacher, not a professor. I do not have a PhD yet. And I have had some people find my channel before, but very few of my students, especially after, because I teach mostly seniors, very few of my students, especially after they leave for college, actually watch me regularly, because I don't really do content that they like. Get at it. I have to have money and time for getting my PhD. At this point, I'm pretty sure Loken's going to have a higher level of education than I will. And he's younger than I am. Welcome back, Half Sack. Star Citizen's delayed. Yeah, the reason why we're having so many issues is because CIG has to release quarterly patches, which requires a lot of time and polish, which is completely wasted, by the way. Anytime they update the game and try to polish the game for players to fix, that's time that they're wasting because it's all going to be thrown away from the next patch because then brand new stuff comes out and they have to polish that as well. It really the amount of polish that goes into the game is dependent on how much work they have to do for that patch. So I'm going to reach into my crystal ball, I'm going to ponder my orb, and I'm going to say that I believe 319 is going to be a better experience than 318 has overall because they've had more time with less tech. So they can focus more on improving the problems they had from 318 than trying to get new tech integrated. I think Star Citizen will have a complete section. I do believe it'll go into beta after alpha, probably in the next 2 years. I would venture to guess a 2025 beta, maybe 2026. But I think once they reach 4.0, which is soon within the year, I would say by next year, sometime March of next year, when they have 4.0 the releases, they'll stay in the 4.0 branch for probably 4 to 5, maybe 6 4.0s. And then they'll move from 4.0 to 5.0, but 5.0 won't actually be alpha, it'll be beta 1.0. Because at that point, all of the pillars will be complete, they'll just need to add more content to the game. X1's in development is delaying the game. We all know the X1 is completely delaying it, but it's important because the X1 is the most important ship in the universe. Did y'all know that the X1 is actually like the Bengal carrier? It has those ship killer railguns. Those aren't actually railguns; those are just X1s that are strapped on the inside, and they just when they hit their afterburner, that's what comes out as the shell that kills ships. Jack, I disagree. I think you're too myopic in your inspection of Star Citizen's funding. If you are a dev, then you may not kind of see the business side of things. And this is not an insult to you. I'm just saying because I've heard this argument before. Star Citizen would make a fuck ton more money being released than in development. And CIG is blowing so much money in development. Like most developers don't need 1,000 people to work on their game because they're not doing what CIG is doing. So I think CIG is trying to get Squadron 42 out and trying to get Star Citizen in a better position because they want to have the ability to focus on the game. I don't think anywhere CIG is like, yes, we want to be in alpha and beta forever to make as much money, because they make more money when the game is more completed, when they have like Squadron 42 done, stuff like that. Why are you confused there, Cat Syrup? Have a good night there, Orion. Thanks for hanging out. It doesn't make more money in development than it'll be in live. Nope, not a quick clue. Well, partially because they ain't stopping to sell ships when it goes to live. There's nothing there's just nothing in the rulebook that says a dog can't play basketball. There's nothing in the rulebook that says CIG is going to stop selling ships when they go to live. Hopefully the extra X1 development time was spent making the seat area a sealed environment. Where's CIG going to make the money for Star Citizen Live? What, $45? Star Citizen's going to go up to $60 minimum. Then they'll be selling skins and other things like that as well. They'll probably have some other means of income. CIG is not... Like, there's nothing that says that CIG's income model won't work at live. It's crazy how far we come from pixel gaming to this quarter of a century. Yeah, Very, very true. You eat shits, yeah. There's nothing that says the CIG's development model will change or their funding model will change, but they'll get a lot more attention with a complete game than they will with a buggy alpha. Yeah, they said that. They also said that buying food or that food is going to be cosmetic. It wouldn't kill you. CIG changes their mind a lot, and things change in development. I guarantee you, CIG is going to keep selling ships when they go live. And concept ships. They're not stopping that. They can't stop that because it's how they make money. Hey, Sharkbite. Yeah, they did. And Chris Roberts himself said that food would never kill you. It would only be a debuff. And that changed. Any more? No new information on the Aegis, though. Yeah, emotes would be another thing they could do. The reason why subs don't work, Gal, is because subs are... You need to have a reason for someone to continue to sub. And unless you have a specific like content that people are willing to, most people are going to be turned off by a sub model. I think there is a room for CIG to have some sort of subscription model, but it's not for a subscription-based model for you to play the game, because it just doesn't, like, we wouldn't have the amount of growth that Star Citizen's experiencing now in terms of player base with a sub model. But then it makes Star Citizen a pay-to-win game then? How so, Jack? Explain to me how that makes a Star Citizen a pay-to-win game. The reason why I was sold as not a subscription game is because subscriptions just don't work in the gaming industry. There's a handful of that, but most of those are niche games or huge games. Again, explain to me how being able to buy ships with a credit card, whatever, in the game makes it a pay to win. Explain it to me in detail. That's all I'm asking. Wouldn't it be a big slap in the face to all people who've spent thousands of dollars on ships? What would be, Anthros? This Fury won't be released anytime soon because the Odyssey will have the bespoke Fury complement. Jack, I get it. Tell me how that makes it pay to win. Explain it to me. Don't just use a buzzword. Tell me how buying game after it's released versus in development makes the game pay to win. Okay, so you could just buy me a fleet of Javs. Okay, can you run that fleet of Javs by yourself? Is there a tumbleweed emote? I mean, that's my point. All of the ships that are supposed to be super overpowered require people. So how is it overpowered? You can have a nuclear weapon right now in real life. That doesn't mean you know how to use it or work with it effectively. You still need the people in terms of those javelins to run the ship. So how is you buying a javelin mean you win the game? Let's say I have an org of players, and then I just buy them top dogs for the org fleet, okay? I don't. You've already said you have players. What's to say that other people don't already have that right now? Nuclear. Okay, whatever. On top of that, you still have to pay for it to function. You have to protect it. You have to refuel it. You have to know what you're doing with it. Even if you have an entire org, you can do that right now. How is it suddenly when it's released, buying a javelin and having an org is pay to win, but now having a javelin and an org is not pay to win? Nuclear. I'm just going to say it as I'm going to say it. A hydrogen bomb. There we go. How will they do? So everyone who has a ship gets one hangar for free if you purchased a ship. But if you, that hangar is going to be placed somewhere in the verse. So if you want to move somewhere, say you have an Aurora and you have your hangar, your starting hangar, you're good. But the second you decide to go to a station or another planet and store your ship there, you have to pay fees for that. I don't teach biology, Pathos. $60 ship versus $200 Corsair. Who wins? Why would a $60 ship go up against a Corsair? And it really depends on the pilot. If a pilot in a $60 ship, let's just say, what is that? It's 300? I can see a 300 beating a Corsair. Like, yeah, definitely. The problem with the pay-to-win argument with Star Citizen is that it assumes that all of the ships are A, only purchasable outside of the game, which they won't be, and B, having the bigger ship means you're a better ship. It means you automatically win. Yeah, that's the other thing, is that you can also purchase the Corsair in game. I can also run away from a Corsair, because a Corsair is slow compared to, like, my F-300. That you're assuming that guy can't... Why would a $60 fighter get into a fight with a $250 Corsair? And again, how is that any different from now? That can still happen now. I heard you say the UAE's losing a war against the Vanduul. They probably will. I don't. They're not really. They're kind of. They are losing. They're kind of in the middle of a bulwark. They've started to push back against the Vanduul, but they are definitely at risk of losing the war. Have I noticed the new music? A little bit, yeah. But peeps need to grind. Okay, Jack. Let me put it this way. Nomad. In what world is a brand new player with a $250 ship going to learn how to use that ship enough to fight somebody in a $60 ship? Like, the problem is that the concept of this is focusing around combat, and it's focusing around larger ships is better. I have seen good players in an Aurora do fucking damage to constellations. One noob can only get an Aurora, one noob gets a cutter. The Aurora wins in that fight. And the cutter is more expensive than the Aurora. The ship matters, but the ship matters only as much as the skill of the pilot does. And also the context. A new player isn't necessarily going to go out and do combat. They also have mining and salvage and so many other things. I can't tell you how many people I have met in Star Citizen who have no desire to fly spaceships. They want to get a big-ass gun and they want to go shoot motherfuckers in space. That's what they want to do. They don't want to fly a ship because that's not their gameplay. They want to do FPS. They want to go into bunkers and other things like that. There's a lot of those folks. So, like, it's hard to really, like, I've heard the argument before, pay to win. And the problem is that every time I've heard it, I go, but how is that different from now? And if it is now, where is this evidence? The people, like, let me do it this way. Put Avenger 1 into an Aurora and put me in the most meta ship possible. I will still fucking lose. Because Avenger 1 knows how to fight in this game better than I do. And he's got more skill than me. Put my wife, who doesn't play the game at all, into a Corsair. And put, let's say, Loken in an Aurora. Loken will beat the ever-living snot out of her. Just because Loken knows how to fly in the game. But I do it with love. But you get my saying. Like skill is a huge factor. One pilot who knows. This is the reason why I say you only really need a starter ship. If you really learn how to fly an Aurora, you can be a dangerous motherfucker. Auroras are fucking nuts. I know, I've seen Logan fly. Be brutally murdered by A1. Yeah. Hey, Celine. Then Loki would design a monument to Cam's sacrifice. Yeah. In traditional Gothic style. Ready to be clipped on Star Citizen refunds with Star Citizen show refuses to answer the game's pay to win. I don't know what the game is not pay to win. I'm just saying, I'm going through a lot of these things. I don't think we see Star Citizen's pay-to-win model at all. Because the issue is, in a normal definition of pay-to-win, you're paying for an advantage that another person does not have, or doesn't have the ability to. So, and I've talked with people about this before. They said, wait, all of the ships are purchasable in-game? Then it's not pay-to-win. Because the concept being, you pay to win the game. That there's no way you can do it without paying. I've heard other people say, well, it's a significant advantage. And it's okay, well, what is a significant advantage if, in the game? In a game that is a sandbox game? Is it just combat? Is it... Because most games that have pay-to-win models are games that have very linear progression. You're like a PvP game, or you're like a strategy game. There is one aspect of winning which is conquering, winning a match, destroying your enemy. But Star Citizen isn't that game. Never has been. I know you're making a joke there. I get you. What was the 9 out of 10 prediction? This gives players either the option to earn it in game, purchase it from a shop if they want to always be available, but it will be a cooldown if it's destroyed. It's always the case. Now, do I think CIG would be... do I think CIG needs to sell ships in game? No, I don't think they do. I think they could make equal amount of money if they made good... So, here is my thought, and this is a thought that I've had for a long time, which is I think CIG could make more money selling cosmetics as an optional addition if those cosmetics were good. MechWarrior Online has a great system for customization. You can buy color palettes and you can purchase patterns, but you can use whatever color you have on whatever patterns you have. So a skin in Star Citizen could look like a pattern, basically just where the primary, secondary, tertiary colors go. And then you can attach any color you want to those patterns to make your ship stand out and be unique. And I think as long as CIG has some free patterns that you can get, free skins you can use, and color patterns and just any hex code spectrum you want, I think that is a great way of adding some more customization. And people would pay fuck tons for that. Do they sell paints in game? They don't. They sell skins though. And they do sell skins in game. You can get skins in game. Okay, that's true. If cosmetics were good, this is the most egregious hopium of the year. Like, I don't think this would work if you were selling red. Like they do. Like, CIG will sell a ship that is red or green. Like, no, that doesn't work. Sign me up. I saw red 300 today. I had to stop and gawk at it. Yes, I am that sad. It looks good. Do they have teal? I think some of them have teal. I don't have equality in my ships. The bank owns them. I make payments. Equity in my ships. What about the bobbleheads? I mean, I love bobbleheads. I'd love for more, like, custom posters would be a great idea. You know, being able to purchase posters of events in game or as fun little Easter eggs and stuff like that. There's great stuff like that. Yeah, well, I mean, I think basic colors should be available 100% of the time. But maybe, like, iridescent colors and other things like that. But the flags, I think the flags are only in shop right now. But those would be great things to earn in game as well, as small little additions. Now, the other thing is that everything I've talked about so far, and a lot of things that people are putting out, they're all free-to-play games, which is where they make their money. And Star Citizen is a pay-to-play. And I know a lot of people are like, well, the microtransactions are bad. It's like, yes, but we're also not talking about EA that makes several $1 billion a freaking month. We're talking about a small indie company that has, that makes a lot of money for an indie company, but pittance in comparison. I swear if CIG started doing anime ship girl and husbando paints, I'd open my wallet with the biggest pry bar ever known to man. Pinup art would sell like crazy. Like, stuff like that is great cosmetics. You give players the ability to slap on cosmetic paints to their like full-blown skins, partner with other games or other companies to put some of their logos and shit like that on there. Partner with Gaijin Impact, CIG. There's a Gaijin Impact? No, it's Gaijin, right? Whatever. Off the fucking shelves. I say small. It's still indie, but small. Yeah, Gaijin Impact, yeah. Slap some of those characters on the side of a ship. Fucking hotcakes. You're just printing money at that point. Yeah, flags are subscriber items, but you can purchase them if you're a subscriber. But I'd love to see those insets like that. Yeah, the Big Betty. Yeah. Is it Genshin Impact? Genshin Impact. Gaijin. I'm thinking Gaijin, the company that makes War Thunder. That's why. Genshin Impact. Thank you. I don't think you could have purchased Star Kitten. I think you had to earn them. There is no purchasable Star Kitten skins. You can only earn them in game, or you can only earn them through rewards, like referral rewards. You can't find any? Yeah. Oh God, no. And that'd be a great thing for a subscription model. You pay for a subscription model, you could get custom patches and logos that you could put onto your uniforms, onto like your spacesuits or your ship. The snail will have your money. Again, I guess technically all subscriber items are available for players if you kill them and take them from their bodies. I mean, the problem with that, Northern, about having players design stuff and then sell those on like a marketplace would require a lot of work on CIG's part to make sure that those items are not already copywritten, because people would use copywritten images, and also would have to have some sort of filtration. They'd have to kind of judge and those sorts of things. But knowing CIG, they'll make those patches earned in game and not recoverable if you bug out. Yeah, that'd be great rewards as well. I would play so much fucking game of this game if I got patches for rep rewards. If I got a patch that I could slap onto like a jacket or a jumpsuit for the defense of Stanton from Xenothreat, fucking I would do that until that patch was like permanently attached to my arm. I'd have so many of those goddamn things that would even be funny. Like, that shit's cool. That's great. That's gameplay. That's in-game play that you could work with. And that's the good thing about these ideas, that they could be used for in-game play per things. Destiny model raid jackets, yeah. I just want a Letterman jacket. I never had mine when I was in high school, so I want it now. What do you mean they're half sack? When you realize in 319 you no longer need a vulture to salvage, you can do it with anything that has a cargo hold. Video ads in the side of a whole series. We're completely off track from what we were originally talking about, but I think it's a good discussion. With a tractor beam attach and detach? Yeah. Oh, you're talking about, yeah, for being able to like remove like missiles and guns and stuff. Yeah. Easy there, Pet My Rock. Easy, right? We're just having a discussion. Jack's not being rude. We're just having a discussion about that. Jack's a regular here. I've seen Jack multiple times. I understand Jack's concerns, and I'm just trying to kind of work them out, because I think he's not wrong in the sense that there's a lot of people who feel like this, but it's really important to like dig down deep to really think about where the origin and root of this is and see if it's true or not. And I still have yet to see an argument that really works for saying that this game's a pay to win for that kind of situation. So patches would be analogous to military participation ribbons. Yeah, something like that would make sense. And I mean, there's stuff like that for various companies do that. For like, you know, if you, for a sales year 2023, your company meets or your division meets the sales quota, they'll give you a nice little like pin. I have a service pin that I got from my district the last year for service in the district for a certain number of years. There's a little placards and stuff like that you get. So I just like starting debates is all. You're good, Jack. Don't worry about it, buddy. I get what you're saying, and I understand the concept. I think some people are getting really too focused on that. That's when you get to the point where like you're attacking the person, not the idea. I used to work for a hotel that awarded each pins for each year employed. Listen, all I want is a giant wall scroll with the hunks of the UEE that's on there. Did I say nuclear again? I actually, honestly, when you brought that up, I've never really understood it. Nuclear or nuclear? Nuclear? Nuclear is like in the nucleus of a cell, though, right? I mean, we don't really need 319 predictions. We know what's going on because it's been leaked. It's an Evocati. Nucleus. Nucleus. In-game ads on TV screens, like YouTube videos from creators. I'd love to see that, but I think we're going to see that more in... I think we're going to more see like in-game ads from various companies and stuff like that in the verse. Nuclear. Okay. You're talking about Jimmy Carter, right, Pathos? Because he was a nuclear engineer. He says nuclear because he's from Idaho. Like, is it Idaho? Yeah, he's Idaho, right? Or is it Iowa? Truck ads for Misks. Yeah. He's from Georgia. All right, he's a Georgia peanut farmer. Right. We don't own him. He's a Georgia peanut farmer who was a nuclear engineer. I've forgotten that he was a nuclear engineer. He was in the Navy, wasn't he? Wasn't he a Navy engineer as well? Like submarines? Or maybe I'm wrong. There's just so many freaking presidents who've been in the military. Navy nuke engineer, yeah. Bush 2 said it a bunch wrong, yeah. Reactor operator, okay. Yeah, it's that whole like generation of presidents. Every single one of them was in the military. Because it was Carter. It was Nixon was in the military. People forget about that. I don't know if Ford was. He might have been. Carter was, Reagan was, Bush HW was, he was a fighter pilot, and the first one who wasn't out of that crew was Clinton. Clinton wasn't in the military. I think it was a string, wasn't it? It's like I think even because I think the only one of that breaks the chain is FDR. FDR wasn't in the military, but Truman was. He was in World War One, and then Eisenhower was, and so was Kennedy. Kennedy was also in the military in World War II, and then Johnson may have not been in the military. He was a career politician. I don't think he was in the military though, because he was a teacher. Then after Johnson, it was Nixon, I want to say. Yeah. And Nixon was in the Navy. And then I don't know if Ford was or not. Watch your lore vids on long QG jumps in the Moby Glass would be nice. That'd be nice, yeah. So what's the subscription tier for Paul's wife versus Loken? I'll talk to Cam about it and have her and see if she'll do it for charity. I use her as an example because she doesn't play the game at all. Every time I talk about you really know your history. I kind of teach it, so I know a lot about Johnson because everything around here is named after Johnson because Johnson's from around here. He's from south of Austin, maybe south of San Antonio. I think it's between here and San Antonio. But he was a teacher and practically ran the goddamn state in the 60s as a senator. He's the reason why Houston Space Center, like the Johnson Space Center, is here in Houston. It's because of him. Some Johnny parts. All right, so this is one I can't talk to my kids about, but Johnson had a bad habit of showing off his Johnson whenever he had a chance to. He called it Jumbo. Apparently, it was fairly big. He'd also like to talk in the toilet a lot. He would like have meetings while he was on the John. He's taking a dump. And had a bad problem of pulling it out during conversations. But his wife, Ladybird, was we have Ladybird Lake here in Austin, and that's named after her. So yeah, it's kind of gross. At one point, CR says QT times of around 45 minutes in the future. Yeah, we'll see how that works. Yay. So you're saying there's a non-zero chance that we had literal dick measuring contest for international diplomacy? Yes. All right, I'll be right back. I'll make sure everything's on so y'all can do your little thing. I'll be back. I'm late to that conversation. All you have to know is that there's a president who named his penis and used to like to show it around, and it's not who you think it is.
Weapons free, y'all.
I'm fly. I'm pilot.
2 distress
Drugs.
I'm fly. I'm pilot.
Bounty hunting is a complicated profession.
Everybody and his dog calls himself an outlaw.
Drugs.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
I'm just an old-fashioned cowboy.
2 words. Distress bacon.
I'm just an old-fashioned cowboy.
Drugs.
Hello, I like money.
Everybody and his dog calls himself an outlaw.
Good news, everyone.
No more fun. It's gonna be hard to see because I think CIG is gonna run into some problems when it comes to betting. If they added actual betting mechanics to the game, they'd probably run into issues with legality. But yeah, that whole fact about presidents is like the fact that Kennedy was hopped up on more drugs than any rock star in the history of mankind. You never hear that. I can't talk about that at school. Have any of your students ever found your channel? Yes, not many, but they have. And some of them I tell them what it is after they graduate or when they're graduating because they ask and I say, hey, if you graduate, I'll let you know. So at graduation, I usually tell them what my channel is. And they've been really good about it. They haven't tried to dox me at all. I've had some in chat before and then be like, my favorite economics teacher. So. It's all in game though. Well, the issue is you're buying UEC and to gamble, and then you're gambling actual money, and it gets wonky with some regulations. I think CIG will still have the ability to gamble, but I think it'll be mostly player related. But it's European and other sanctions for like what's a video game and what's a like a casino, effectively. Well, you could, Paul. But that would be the last day working with that Johnson's Johnson. Yeah. So yeah, apparently, let's go through some of the leaks because I don't care. Apparently, clouds are now in ArcCorp as of 3.19, and the full list. Corsair, Cutter, and C8R Pisces are all now purchasable in game. Not how much they cost. I don't think it says that, anything like that, but yeah. I got your Farfetch. It's leak time. Yeah. Yes, it means you can be old man yelling at clouds in Area 18, Q-Pan. What's the status on ship armor? So we, as of Con 42, I forgot who it was, but they actually commented, there was a question about the armor, and they said that they actually have armor working in game as a prototype on a Gladius, but it's still far away from release. Now you may hear that it's been years away from release, but that's actually a mistranslation or a misreporting by at least it was like when I saw I heard from a content creator. So it's in game. They've tested it. It's just not on track yet. My guess is they're waiting for after what is it called? After resource management is in before they start working on that even further. So that's better than nothing, Paul. That's true. It's a nice update for that for sure. Prototype, yes. But it's nice that they've actually had it in game and looking at it, which tells me they've probably been working on the damage systems as well, in terms of like the different damage types. We know that's something they've been working on in the past, so. When Starcitizen goes live, they will stop the buying UEC. With wipe still happening, they have to worry about it. I don't know. I think CIG is going to do it. I think it's a stupid idea, but I think it's going to happen. Thoughts on getting server meshing ISC? I'd love to see a new server meshing ISC. I think we'll get one in July, though. I don't think we'll get one soon. Maybe different damage types with new ammunition. New types of ammunition. Yeah, I think that's what we're going to get some of that, too. We talked about that at the last captain's table with Execute and Shri 0311. We talked about new damage types like flak and other things like that, so. I wish they had the Liberator ready. It would be used for it already, especially with 320. I don't think we're going to see the Liberator until after 4.0. It's just not in the cards right now. I would really like to see an update on Quantum and where they are, but I don't think we're anywhere near Quantum mattering until 320. Just adding armor to ships, like it's HP for armor, like a counter. Sort of. It's supposed to be, so the idea being that your armor is a value you can add to any ship. So you have hull and then you have armor on top of the hull. And the reason why it's a big deal is that a lot of PvPers and a lot of people in general, when they talk about balance, they say it's not important to do balance because we don't even have armor in. What they mean by that is there's no way to put armor onto a ship to give it more protection against certain types of attacks, which would then negate things like, ballistics. Because in the past, they've talked about the idea of using armor as a hard counter against ballistics. Ballistics will just bounce off armor. But they go through shields but bounce off armor. But energy weapons and will chew through armor but have a hard time being deflected by shields. So the idea being a kind of a rock, paper, scissors, a good balance between the different types of those sort of things. Physicalized plates, to those add the reduction values seen, basically, yeah. It's like World of Warships. I don't know that system, but yeah, possibly. Are they planning to have like real armor plates? Sort of. I don't know if it'll actually change the visual style. It may just be a value they add to the game onto the ship itself. When do you think we'll get the backpack salvager? When we get the big salvage tool, which is earliest, I would say, is 320. Probably not then, though. So it's just them adjusting the HP then. The difference is that it's also applied onto the skin after the fact. And that will also adjust the flight characteristics because the armor will add weight, and that weight will then reduce the functionality of thrusters, will reduce the fuel efficiency. It's more complicated than just add number to spreadsheet. So When will we get ship tractor beams? 320, I would say, is the earliest, because they basically have it functioning. It's just a matter of more work to it. Too much work for our department to actually make armor rather than give it a armor value. I don't think it's not that difficult. It's just more of adding an additional like skin, basically, is all it would be. But you also have to make that skin also function with all of the skins that exist in game. What's something you think people are sleeping on the next couple of patches that's actually a big deal? Arena Commander. The amount of time you're going to get combat in Star Citizen in the PU is going to be much lower than you do now, especially as more space opens up with Pyro, and Pyro's big as itself. Even if you increase players, there's going to always be a 9-to-1 NPC to player ratio, and there's not a guaranteed combat. So if you want to get practice in combat, Arena Commander is going to be where you're going, and Arena Commander is going to get a huge glow up between now and the end of the year. So they're going to put armor on the outside of ships to blow off, like it can be butt plates the outside of my armor. Tank already Redeemer. Yeah, you could. But it'll also tank your fuel efficiency. So your QT drive will suck ass, and you'll be sucking up hydrogen like crazy. There'll always be some sort of downside. Are there front arms in the tractor beams too? I think there are supposed to be, because if you look at the front two booms of the cuddy, it says warning tractor beam on the front. So it's at least supposed to have tractor beams in the front. I think that's more for stabilization though, instead of loading and unloading. It's more of a stopping a ship that is already damaged. I think we'll see the 32 SCU in 320. We've already seen them show it off in a sneakily peekly. They've been talking about doing cargo elevators. I wouldn't be surprised if we see cargo elevators in 320, which would be directly related directly with 32 SCUs and persistent hangars. Is it a new picture of the tractor beams on the Cutlass? As far as you know, are they still planning on having different material types for values of things being made from holes and components? Yes. Each the holes themselves will be made of different material, will change that. But all of that is not going to happen until they have resource management. Am I thinking 320 by IAE? I think it's already been confirmed that it's the IAE patch. Or it's the CitizenCon patch. I think Jake said it in Discord at one point. But yeah, I think 320 is the CitizenCon patch. So we'll have it before IAE. Likely will still be the IAE patch. I think in a perfect world, according to CIG, 4.0 would be the IAE patch. But that ain't happening. What we see in 320, basically anything that was going to make it into 319, but didn't make it because the back end stuff. So I would be surprised if we saw the decoupled replication layer, which currently is connected to the server, but now it's going to be decoupled and with all servers, so it's copied amongst all of them. We'll probably see more updates to Gen 12 and Vulkan. I don't know if we'll see Vulkan integration by then, but we might. We'll definitely see the intact HABs, the frontier settlements that are intact. We have the ruined ones now. They'll probably be in the game by 320, almost certainly. Probably see a new event that comes in. Probably something similar to, we definitely know, almost certainly we'll get one of the mission types that they did. So maybe investigation, maybe that's that data intercept, They've already been working on that what is it called? The one where you have to stop the Ninetales from escaping with some plans that are for Crusader. That's almost certainly going to be in the game. Can you go over Death of the Spaceman, what it means? I hear a lot, but I don't know what it entails. Okay. So, to understand Death of a Spaceman, I have to explain to you what regeneration is. To understand regeneration, you have to know a little bit about the lore. I'm not going to go in too depth, but there is a doctor named Dr. Aka Ibrahim. Dr. Aka Ibrahim was an expert in neurological repair. He had a dream of one day being able to return someone to their full functionality after traumatic brain injury. He did a lot of work on scanning the brain and returning people like motor functions, stuff like that, but never their personality. Sometime in 2946 or 47, somewhere around there, the UEE brings in Dr. Aka Ibrahim because they make a discovery. The discovery is of some scanning device that was used by the Van Duel. He can't make hide or hair of it, but knows it's a scanning device. And then further down the line, there's another clandestine raid, which then brings back more of this technology. And Dr. Ibrahim is able to reverse engineer this to create what's called the Ibrahim Sphere. Now, the Ibrahim Sphere is a personality copying device. It's a soul capture device. It's able to copy you down to your minute memories, all of the information that makes you you, into a device. Now, this is connected to you via a dimensional rift, sort of a place between dimensions, a dimension between, like, that's close to our dimension, called interspace. It's where jump points go through as well. So as a result, your mind is constantly copying all of your information to this sphere through this technology. So when you die, that connection is severed. And as a result, your brain can now be put into a new body. But you can't put that brain into a new body as long as that connection is active. So there's another technology called Regen Serum, which was designed to recreate arms and limbs and stuff like that, which has been used to effectively clone a human body down to the exact proportions. But the Ibrahim Sphere will then imprint not only your brain, but all of your who you are, including what your body was like, to the clone. So it's not like you have a clone somewhere that's saved for you. You are regrown, like 3D printed, and then your personality is put into your body. The problem is that this is an incredibly traumatic experience, and because it constantly updates you as you get older, your update also gets older. So your update will constantly show with you. Now, I'll explain that because a lot of people say it's cloning. It's not cloning. It's more complicated. It's much more like sleeving from altered carbon, but sleeving you can kind of put into anybody. This only is your body. And you have to understand the concept of trauma echoes. The way this all plays out into the game is that those trauma echoes act as kind of a hard HP bar. So as you die, your hard HP will go down. It'll depend on how you die, when you died, a lot of other different factors. And over time, your body will degrade. So even if you're getting reprinted after you die, when you respawn, your body will have less of integrity. So your brain, because it's building up these errors in your brain, in your consciousness, which is basically trauma, like a representation of trauma. So you may wake up one day where your arm doesn't work, and so they had to chop your arm off and replace it with a brand new synthetic arm for you to be able to function. Eventually, over time, you will no longer be able to be printed because your brain is more error than person. your consciousness is. So that is when you have the big death, and that's what the death of a spaceman is eventually your character will no longer have that hard HP. You'll go to 0, and then you will have to roll a new character. You can actually reduce the trauma echoes. They haven't worked that out yet, but the idea being that they want to have specific treatments that can reduce the trauma echoes, specific ways to reduce trauma echoes, like constant imprinting, imprinting only at high quality facilities, not staying too far away from the facilities. So copies of copies, yeah. Relaxing spa days, yeah. There'll be, it may be a money sink, or maybe you have to do certain missions. Like there may be a specific drug that you can take that will reduce trauma echoes, but you can only get access to that drug if you have high enough reputation with this pharmaceutical company that'll give you access to it. Not taking standardized tests. Yeah, it's similar to quantum entanglement, yes. But I don't think quantum entanglement has anything to do with interspace. I looked it up and couldn't find anything. But that is the most that we understand about Death of a Spaceman. It's not really permadeath, though. It's more of a light permadeath. You'll have to re-roll a new character, but you'll still have all your stuff. It's just a slight penalty. The idea being that people will get attached to their characters and have more value to their life. This is what Chris Roberts wants. He wants players to value their lives and act accordingly, rather than just go, lol, I don't give a shit, I'm going to respawn anyways, fuck you, and just like ramming their ship into things. What I just said, could that affect 4.0's rollout? Hell no. They are nowhere near ready for Death of Spaceman. They need to get actor status 2.0 before they even get to close to that. This is something that is like a beta release. Something I would see somewhere around beta. Probably not even close until like closer to release. Or maybe end of alpha, like end of the 4.0 branch. Items kept, reputation gone, or it's lessened, yeah. And you also have to pay some money as a hidden inheritance tax. Well, yeah, that's what I said. Like over time, as you get trauma echoes, you will lose the ability to things like control your arms or your legs, and as a result, you'll have to get cybernetics to replace your limbs and such, which will be a physical like sign that you have regenerated too many times. So you're saying I might lose my glorious singing voice? Yeah, to everyone else, you're a new person. Cybernetics equals backspace badges. I had an issue with Echo stacking up, but we'll be able to keep some kind of template for character creator so I don't have to do it every single time. Yeah, almost certainly. I will say this, Derpius Turtle, the current system that CIG is using for character creation is not the character creator that they're going to go with. The one that they're going with is most likely the one they're making for Squadron 42, which is... yeah, I wouldn't say the same as Star Citizen right now, but it's definitely different. And I have a feeling that we have to wait for a certain other back end with PES stuff. The reason why it doesn't save is PES. But there shouldn't be a reason why it can't save right now. It just has to be hooked in. And I don't think they've hooked it in because they want to replace the system. It's kind of cool to think you could be more robot than human. I think CIG is going to have a problem because people will just intentionally kill themselves until they're full dive cyborg, if that's the only way they can get cyborg. parts. So when they roll this out, they're going to have to give players the option to cosmetically like replace their body with cybernetic parts, because there's also some problems to that. When you die, if you have a cyborg arm and you didn't lose that arm, then you may regen with an arm or without the functionality of the arm. So you have to repurchase all of your cybernetics as well, which makes that your cybernetics an additional piece of kit that you will lose when you regen. Yeah, very few of the things are going to be like we see today. A lot of this stuff is already in the progress of being changed. Like, for instance, salvage is tier 0. I don't think the current version of salvage is going to change that much. They're just going to add on top of it. Same with mining, same with refining and bounty hunting and all that kind of stuff. We're going to see newer things fleshing out those areas. But there's currently a gigantic overhaul of the game, even down to the movement system. How your character moves in game is going to change, because all that stuff has been worked on in the back end, or on the Squadron 42, which is a separate game, and then to be imported into Star Citizen. Hey, Jamie. Hi, May. I didn't see what is cloudless sky. Oh, for weather tier 0. I hope it's just rain. Getting rain and snow would be nice. How will CIG flesh out cybernetics? I imagine it'll just be changes to the character model. Just be a cosmetic change. I imagine that there'll probably be some small advantages, like higher strength or speed or something like that. But there'll be some weaknesses as well, like you're more weak against certain types of weaponry, like EMPs or certain types of plasma weaponry or that kind of stuff. I heard there will be unique running animations you can choose in the future, or am I correct? I believe there's going to be something you can choose. I don't know if it's exact, though. I think they track humidity already, Axis. Chromed out, Choom. They already track humidity and weather patterns and all that kind of stuff in the game. They already have all that simulated. It's just they don't have it visually simulated. I'm a smasher build in Star Citizen. And fog is something they're already working on. It's already in the game, sort of. They have it, but they don't have it fully functioning out there. There was a I believe an ISC a while back where they showed like the weather patterns and the humidity and high and low temperature systems. They have all that matted out into the game. How many of you guys are going to play Squadron 42? On release. I'll stream it. I think a lot of us are going to be playing Squadron 42. I know my wife, I was going to say earlier, my wife follows, whenever I talk to her about Star Citizen, unless it's drama, I'll say, hey, you want to know more about Star Citizen? She goes, sure. First answer me this question. Is Squadron 42 out yet? And I go, no. She goes, then shut the fuck up. So she's a huge fan of like Mark Hamill and Gillian Anderson and those stuff. So she loves single player games. She'll play Squadron 42. She doesn't give a shit about Star Citizen. She'll play Squadron 42. Pathos, do you not know what Squadron 42 is? Honestly? Not AccuWeather with Radar Echo, please don't kill me. My Radar. Radar Echo shows up here. He's one of the owners and founders of My Radar. He hangs out in the chat a little bit. But yeah, that's my radar. And last I talked with them about it, they just said they still have partnership with them. They just haven't fully gotten through it yet. No, you're fucking with me. Okay. We all can't be Paul, who spends $42K in store for FHC. Listen, look, all right? I spent all that money to do giveaways, okay? But I get it, Jack. I know not a lot of people played Star Citizen because of Star Citizen, but there's a lot of people who are like part of the original backer crew who only backed Star Citizen because they wanted to play Wing Commander again. No, what Star Trek was? Okay. I mean, I don't play single-player games. Yeah, I get it. I play shit out of single-player games. I love single-player games. I just don't like them for the same reason I like multiplayer games. Right now, I have spent a total of my personal money, maybe 10,000, maybe, over the course of, oh, not even that, actually. Probably more like 3,000 over the course of 8 years for my personal fleet. But I have spent well over $40,000 on Star Citizen. But like 38,000 of it was for giveaways. So when you purchase something and you give it away, is, you know, when I do it for like streams and stuff like that, over the last 6 years I've done that, it still counts as towards your account because you purchased it with your with cash. It still counts as you purchasing it, even if it's not in your hangar anymore, even if you give it away. So the game thinks I've spent well over $40,000, which is true. But all of it's come from stream funds, through subscriptions, through YouTube ad money, all that kind of stuff. So it's not been my money. I guess it is my money, but it's used for the company. So that is a lot, Anthos. Anything over $45 is a lot of money. It does count. Yeah, I can write it off of my taxes because I use it for marketing purposes. So it does actually count as a tax discount, tax write-off. But I do it because it's promotion. It's a promotional thing. It's the idea of giving away, gets people to come in, play the game, and a lot of people like to do it because of giveaways. I haven't been buying a lot of them recently because CIG has been very, very generous in giving me ships. I've got a lot of ships in the last couple of patches that CIG has given me to give away. Or, you know, for free, which is, thank you, CIG, for that. I really do appreciate that. And it's not just me, they do it for a lot of other content creators as well. But tax write-off, tax write-off. Yeah, it's tax deduction because it's part of my company. When giveaway? Exclamation point, April, right now. We're giving away I believe it's an arrow we're giving away. No, it's an Antares. Antares, yeah, Antares. More than an arrow. So that's what I do. I do that for monthly. You just have to be subscribed on Twitch, or, you know, followed on Twitch, subscribed on YouTube for the TheAstroPubLive and the Astro Historian, and through that app, and you're good to go. Pocket full of arrows. It's not really fishy. I mean, the answer is that I actually. So I'll give you a little sneak peek. Over the last 3 years have been the first time I have made over $10,000 streaming. I make over 40, actually close to 50. Well, actually over 50 now. I make over 50,000 as a teacher. So I make 1/5 of my income, and teaching is notoriously a shitty job to get paid in. The only reason I can afford it is because I already work for a living. So my day job, and I get a bunch of my taxes taken out for my day job. So when it comes to the actual kind of process of filing my taxes, a lot of that, I'm basically paying taxes on my income, which is helping to pay for this income. I barely make any money. Last year, I think I made $1,000 profit total. You'd be surprised how much money you have to spend for things like subscriptions, paying for music licenses, and all the other shit like that. It's also very expensive. I'm dead, Jack. I'm not gonna lie. When Invictus comes, my pocket is gonna feel it. Yeah. As I want dynamic server mesh and other sources before they can give more cash. Hey, that's fine. Okay, real question: base hull versus variance discussion. Harbinger versus Warden. X-Wing versus Antares. I've heard back and forth about whether you'll be able to have base hull and swap out components, or if they're dedicated single-use hulls. No idea. Some of them, they've said that they want to be able to have them swappable. Others, they haven't said anything about it. With the Harbinger versus the Warden, they've talked about the battlefield upgrade kits. I don't know how much that is still there, but they have sold them. Whereas the Avenger, they've talked about them being swappable, but require extensive retooling to get them out. I'd imagine it wouldn't be too difficult for them to do that. It's a matter of creating a tool to allow that to happen, which is what modularization is. But I imagine some ships will not. Like, I don't think you'll see the Antares be swappable with the regular Scorpius. Your honesty is super refreshing. Thank you for teaching us and giving us so much of your time too. Hey, it's all right. I'm like, I felt bad because I was hanging out with Burks. He came to a bar citizen meetup, and it was like one of those big CIG citizen meetups. I was hanging out with Burks, and we were drinking. We're talking about YouTube, and he's like, "Yeah, I make X amount of money on YouTube," and I'm like, "I feel like a shit ass. I make no money on YouTube compared to you, and that's not even your main platform." Then again, Burks does it for a living, so it's his job. Was there a new ship leaked this week? I don't know if there was. There was the, we had a couple of them. We had the Misk Fury had some stuff with it. There was the Tumbril Storm. The Gatak, I can't even say the name of it. It's like Salyen. I can't remember the name of it. It's a Xi'an ship. And then there was a unnamed Aegis ship that was mentioned. Again, I've always said that the most important, like, I don't buy ships for myself. I haven't in years because I have most of my fun doing starter ship runs. Sulyan. Yeah, Sulyan. Yeah, I think the last ship I purchased for myself was the Nova. I think I got myself a Nova. That's just because fuck you, Tanko, brr. I am ride or die on that fucking the Ranger, the Tumbril Ranger. Fucking man, I know I always get shit for it. It's like, it's not worth it. You just buy it in games. Like, fuck you. I just want the goddamn Akira bike. All right. Yeah, we're not getting the Gatak. I don't think that's coming out in IS for Invictus. I think that's almost certainly a Alien Week release. Yeah, it'll probably be. I don't think it's going to be a straight to flyable. I'm assuming it's going to be a concept ship release. Your bank. Do you think the Avenger Titan will get a rework for Bounty Hunter V2? You mean, I think the Avenger, Stalker, the Titan, isn't the Bounty Hunter one. It's the Stalker, and I think it might get a little bit, but it'll probably just be a texture swap out of the bins. Oh, the Nova needs more than a few quality of life fixes. So. What's the storm going to be? So there are two options. My thought initially is just it's going to be an IFV, a companion to go with the Nova as an infantry fighting vehicle, like the Bradley or the BMP, with Striker, any number of IFVs, or my wild imagination is that it's an SPG. A self-propelled gun. Artillery piece. Mwah! I would love that. Because one of the things I really want to see is artillery in-game. The next one is the best concept ship. It comes with steak and top-shelf wine. That's true. Completely true. It would entirely fuck up the meta. Because you wouldn't need an A2 to just rain hellfire down upon Jumptown. A sort of Bradley the Nose M1 Abrams. Yeah, I'd love to see that, yeah. Will we see usable drugs in games like how they spent how speed is used in the Expanse novels? Almost certainly. They call them stims in game, but the other drugs will probably. I think that has to do with the new medical system stuff that they're doing. The rework, but the new stuff they're adding to the medical system and the actors feature system. So. Can you explain IFV for non-military people? Infantry fighting vehicle. Let me pull up some examples for you. You've seen them before. Okay, so pull up the image of the Bradley so you can see what I'm talking about. So this is the Bradley infantry fighting vehicle. It looks like a tiny little tank. It holds 6 troops in the back. It has a little tow missile side, and I think this is what is this, a 25 millimeter or 35 millimeter? It's a big gun, but it's not big gun. It's not a tank gun, but it's a cannon, a small cannon. Don't you dare show you the Bradley. And then there's also some of the more popular ones you've probably seen as well is the BMP. It's a Russian version of it. See, kind of like a small tank. It's got a big cannon on it. You can hold some troops in the back. It's a pretty common battlefield thing that exists these days. So you can think of it as like a cross between the Nova and the Ursa. Can carry some troops, but big fucking gun. Striker. So we can find a good one that kind of shows this off, because a lot of them just have the Red Cross painted on them, because I think they're used as medical vehicles mostly. There we go. Maybe it was just that version of it. I think this is a model of it, but non-tracked version of an IFV, effectively. But there are lots of different countries make their own versions of an infantry fighting vehicle. Sounds like we need more of those in game. We do. It's been one of those things that's important because it can carry ground troops, but also has some support. So, like, I think the Nova is a size 5. I wouldn't be surprised if we got an infantry fighting vehicle that has a size 3 or size 4 bespoke. Something that's designed to take on other ground vehicles. Like a ground vehicle that's designed to fight, like, the G12s and the Ursas and such. The 1133 is strictly medical. Wait, does that make the Spartan is an IFV. It's too big to be an IFV though. It's bigger than the Nova. It doesn't really function the way an IFV would normally function. Yeah, almost all they have to get out that out for pyro ships are going to be complete no-shows. Yeah, I'm surprised that they decided they were not going to put the Liberator out there. I think they definitely needed the Liberator for Pyro, but not for the initial release of Pyro. The M133. The M113 is an APC. CH, you're never going to implement a vehicle as good as stopping the G12 as a ship team's disinterest. I mean, yeah, that's the secret that I hate to say, that I know a lot of people are like, well, you know, the marketing team runs CIG. It's like, no, dude. Sometimes you just got to admit that sometimes when you see shit happen, it's like, that's the ship team's fault. Why does this exist? Because the ship team thought it was cool. That's why. It's my hot take on why Crusader sucks now. Well, not sucks now. Why Crusader is so off-brand from their original concept is because the ship team thought it was cool. They thought it was cool, so they wanted to they made a Crusader with a big fucking gun. A Crusader ship with a big fucking gun. Well, would a Spartan fit in a Constellation Andromeda? No, it does not. The M113. Oh, I know you're talking about. Yeah, the M113. I know that's an old one though. That's a Vietnam era one. It's still around. It's used in a lot of different things, but I think it's an old one. You're just putting out random things. RPD, RPK, Rock DS. Yeah, I know that you still use the National Guard. Yeah, we're not getting Odyssey and Pyro drop. We need radars to get fleshed out because they're supposed to be good. Radars good at finding ground targets as opposed to aerial. Right now, the SIGs for wheeled vehicles are practically invisible. I think that's part of the redesign that's being worked with the star map and the MFDs and the HUD. That's all stuff for Squadron. Hey, Paul. I saw the Lorville video today. Jared was behind the fantastic bar again. I think he's taunting you. He always is taunting me. That's just how he works. Hey, Paul, just tweeting for a giveaway. Weird isn't recognizing that I did it. Did I make the new Twitter accounts? I think you have to link the Twitter account, is what it is. You have to link it with the site. I feel bad because I've not been paying attention. Thank you so much, Snark, for that 66 months. Let's see if we saw anybody else that I missed. Good. Axis, thank you for that as well. I didn't see that as well. So what's going to be the next large ship dropping for Pyro? I think we're pretty much it. I think if any other large ship is just going to be more of a support for other things. All right, you're good, Jordan. Awesome. Is the Cutlass Personal a Paul Shelley original? It might as well be at this point. So we won't see another type of ship over 200 meters in the near future. I think we will, but CIG seems hesitant. I think we'll see more stuff around the same size as the Galaxy at most. Yeah, I don't bother. You have to pay money for it. Hover tanks. Everyone's been talking about hover tanks. I'd love to see that in the future, but I don't think we're going to see anything hover from Tumbril. Yeah, it was something to cruiser, but all of those are not. There's no point in selling them when they're like still years away from adding like capital ships. Minimum is 4.0 is what you need before you can add that, and 4.0 is likely not going to come this year. So, all right, now that we have more people here, I do also want to point out that we've been sponsored all of this month with Factor. So Factor is a meal prep service. They've sponsored me to do this. I've actually gone through and ordered this already. You can actually edit my meals right here if I wanted to and change all these up. And then I can go back and like see this is my view total. I've spent about $74 for this one. It can be a little pricey. But the thing that Factor functions as, if you are a person who doesn't like to cook meals a lot, you end up ordering out a lot or going out a lot to eat because you just don't have the time or the energy or anything else like that to eat. Factor gives you pre-prepared meals weekly that you can choose. Like these are all pre-selected, but you can choose you can choose other meals and change these up. Like, so I can edit my meals right here. I can add other meals. I can add vegetarian, vegan stuff. I can add gourmet stuff if I wanted to for a little bit more money. These are all things that are addable to this. This is actually a really good one. I really like this one. To this. I'll probably remove something else up here. What is it I got? I'm gonna put it down. Save those 4 meals. Okay. So they can add more meals if I wanted to. I just swapped that out so this is one I selected. 2 minutes in the microwave. You put them in your fridge. They last for 7 days. It's really good for that kind of lifestyle, I would say. I have used them in the past. They're kind of expensive. The only reason why I don't still use them is because they're just out of my budget. But I would heavily suggest people try it out. They've sponsored me, so they are paying me to say that. But at the same time, they're giving me a 50% off coupon. So if you sign up with my link, !Factor in chat, and there'll be a little a coupon code that you can use. You'll get 50% off of your first order, and then you can cancel it at any time. You can cancel it the next day if you needed to. So. Factor baby. Now, if you do decide to do it as well, if you use the if you decide to pick this up, every time you use an order, you get an order with my coupon code, I get $50 for it. So I get a bonus $50 every time you buy one. So it's good. Trust me on that one. I just kind of want the smoothies. You can also just order the smoothies, but with the coupon, I've tried them and they're very good. Okay, thank you. I know there's multiple people who are in this chat, and I think like Gin and Tonic and a couple other people who've used it have been like, yeah, it's really good. So Tavaran Light Hover Tank. I mentioned that there has been mention in the lore of a armored Tavaran armored vehicle of some kind, which I assume is like a tank, but they're really good. Like they were surprisingly good when I first tried them out, because Cam was working, I'm working, I get home, don't want to do anything. She gets off work, she doesn't want to do anything. Just kind of like, oh, kind of dead. And these were great, kind of pop in the microwave, 2 minutes out, tasty meals, and they rotate them out every week, so there's new meals, you can change them out. It's great. If they dropped the whole sea this year, they're a joke. I don't know if we'll see that, because the whole seas need a lot of different things added. I think it's waiting on Pyro. We can't even, we don't even have the 32 SCU crates yet. When those come in, we'll be a little bit better, but every time you order a code, a kitten doesn't die. You giving it a shot? Thank you, no nonsense. I just get my Nona to make me din din. That's fantastic. I'm glad you have that. Hey, Blood Tide. How you doing, Blood Tide? Thanks for that raid. What you up to, buddy? Has CIG ever discussed adjustments to cockpit UI? Yes. That's part of, I think that's part of what they're doing with Squadron 42. It's, they've discussed some of that stuff, but it's in the pipe. Will you shove 32 cubes into a 32 SCU containers, or they'll spawn full? They'll probably spawn full, but I think the way that they're supposed to use is that you can put stuff in there if you need to. They're supposed to have their own gravity kind of shield and that kind of stuff. Hey, Paul, I'm in the mood for some tasty food that I can get using a code that saves me money. You know any of the good sites? Factor, but it's going to take you a week. Like, this isn't even coming until Monday the 8th, so I'm not even getting it until I'm going to leave you at that. Okay. Factor, isn't that from HelloFresh? Yes, actually HelloFresh owns Factor. So the difference between HelloFresh and Factor is HelloFresh is, they send you all the ingredients and the instructions on how to make your food. Factor is pre-prepared for you. So Factor is for those people who are on like a fucking time crunch. Still good stuff though. How you doing, Ren? The illegal pet trade is going to be huge. Or can't follow instructions. That's true. I think it works the same way, though. Like, I think when you get HelloFresh, they give you a meal, like, in a box. And then that box you stick in your fridge, and when you're ready to prepare it, you pull it out. You can remove all of the wrappings, and you go through it, all that kind of stuff. What's the next lore expedition? When CIG unfucks it's bugged. Relics are no longer in the game right now. They're entirely bugged out. Even though CIG said that it wasn't planned, a lot of other things aren't planned, and CIG still fucked them. So, exclamation point factor to get on that link and everything. So, high schoolers, so between the ages of 14 and 18, and technically more like 15 to 19, but I teach mostly seniors, so 17, 18, 19-year-olds. Yeah, so I run an organization called the League of Relic Enthusiasts, and the League of Relic Enthusiasts' sole job is to seek out artifacts and bring them out of the hands of pirates into our hands. Basically, relic hunters. That's what we are. And since 3.18, they've completely removed relics from the loot pool because of a bug. So, when I worked out as a field station, HelloFresh was our only way to get fresh food. They are 100% in my book. So you could think of this as HelloFresh, but pre-prepared. So all you have to do is toss it in a nuke for 2 minutes. Toss it into a microwave for 2 minutes and pull it out. Sounds like Indiana Jones in space? Yes, with a lot more guns. We participate in archaeology, which involves dropping in a Valkyrie with heavy weapons and shooting anything that moves, and then stealing everything in sight. So British Museum archaeology. Nice. I know that. I know what you're talking about there, Ren. You are a hero. I can't teach primary school. Could never teach primary school, especially with special needs and like with autism and behavioral issues. SBS is what we call them here. Social behavioral something like that. I can't remember. But those folks are saints. And kids love them. The kids love those, like the people who work there. They feel safe around them. That's great. They're fantastic folks. Oh. All right, I'm going to wrap this up because we've been streaming for almost 4 hours now. And we talked a lot. It was tough but rewarding for me. I love those kids. Then I had my own and left teaching. Yeah, that can happen. All right, I'll be right back because I do always like to show off this. I usually do this at the very beginning. I'm going to start doing towards the end because some people have asked me to kind of show it off some more. But I do... miniature painting. I haven't finished painting this one yet, but I have some finished models I finished recently, so. All right. I have to do this because otherwise it doesn't show up because it's blue-green. I also have those Star Wars Legion minis, which I got through. Painting up the veterans, Rebel veterans as forest camo, more forest. So. Put these back real quick. All right. At some point, I'll go through and paint the, probably before I Invictus, I'll paint the Freelancer again. Finish up that Freelancer. But until then, I am calling it a night. Thank you for joining us. I may or may not stream tomorrow. I'm still working on a big lore video. I've recorded half of the audio, and I've got to finish the rest of it tomorrow. And then I want to try to record a bunch of in-game stuff and do that sort of thing, and then edit it together or try to release it for Saturday. So keep an eye out for that one. It's going to be talking about the Lost Settlers of Stanton. That's right. We're going to talk about the secret history of the Stanton system. I decided to make it a little bit longer because it does tackle a lot of in-game parts. This is lore that is actually hinted at in-game and or discussed in the website, which pertains to in-game stuff. So we'll be doing that one. And then I'll be back. I'll definitely be back on Saturday. I know we used to have one person. We have Sigelian is going to be on. So it'll be interesting. I'll see if I can talk with somebody else about it. But yeah, we'll be talking about that. And then we'll definitely be back with group stuff on Sunday for sure to kind of get some more of that. I'm coming down with the end of my school year. My school year ends at the end of May. So going to the beginning of May means I only have 4 weeks left. So once that ends, I'll start doing more stuff in June and July. So definitely check that out. But for now, it's going to be kind of slow until next week, and then it'll be picked back up again. First Settles got kicked out, killed, bribed. Check the video, find out. Yes. Thank you again for hanging out with us. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black.